find someone, and the first person I walked into the hallway and saw a girl in the wheelchair crawling on the ground. 3 older bullies had tipped her out and were filming her kicking her books away. She was crying, trying to reach her chair while they laughed. I ran over to try help, but they threw me into the lockers instantly. These guys claimed to have gang ties, and rumors said they brought guns to school, and I knew I couldn't take all 3 of them, so I ran to find someone, and the first person I bumped into was Mr. Potter. Now, Mr. Potter was the nerdiest teacher. He was the president of chess club, said okie dokie, and called everybody scholar, but he also had faded tattoos covering his forearms that seemed the total opposite of nerdy. I told him what was happening, and he put down his teacup, walking towards the hallway instantly. I worried the bullies would do something to him, so I followed him. But even though I only got there a minute after him, the hallway was now empty. I couldn't find them anywhere, and when I had Mr. Potter for class later, neither he nor the girl showed up. I got a bad feeling. Know how. I was furious, but when I realized he had an actual office, I got an idea. I drove over and applied for a job, and since he didn't recognize me, he hired me on the spot. For months, I mopped his floors and gained his trust, while secretly collecting invoices and finding out everything about his business. I drove to his clients' addresses to see if he ever did the work he was paid for, and at one of the houses, I saw an elderly woman with a broken window he should have fixed 2 weeks ago. She barely spoke English and reminded me of my mom. One day, he pulled me aside, smiling. "Remember, kid, single moms, people with no English, the elderly, they are easy money, collect and forget." He laughed, and I wanted to punch him, because I realized he was only scamming the vulnerable people who he knew couldn't fight back. I forced myself to laugh with him. Then next day, while he was out for lunch, I snuck into his office. I logged into his computer and went straight to his business accounts. I pulled up every client he had scammed and sent all the money back directly into their accounts. I even compensated them for what they went through. He came back in and saw me at his computer. His account had 0 and freaked out. "I trusted you." He picked up his phone to call police, but I just laughed and pulled out all the evidence I'd collected of his scams. He went white as he realized he was screwed, and I told him, "Now, you're either going to shut down your business, or I'm the one calling the police." He immediately put down the phone and agreed. I immediately forced him to drive back to our house and fix my mom's roof. I did that for every person he had scammed, and after he'd fixed everything for free, I reported him for
Please tell me I made it.
Anyway. After my sister's funeral, I learned a language only a tiny portion of the human population knows. I watched a specific episode of Teen Titans Go on Repeat, where all the characters spoke Pig Latin, which I forgot I had learned until high school. My teacher, Mr. Ham, was a huge language geek and got a kick out of acting like he was smarter than everyone else. One day, I missed an assignment and apologized to Mr. Ham. He said, "Aid, ik pay up yai ayai ukpe om time say upidstay," which means, pick up a book sometime, stupid. I completely understood him but said nothing. Turns out, he talked crap about every single student in Pig Latin. To the girl students, he'd say, "Our yai is bianle ugsjai arayai oingai otai astaway," which translates to, "Your lesbian looks are going to waste." I'd see him look at kids with disabilities and hear him say, "America's yai exne itest bray homeless hay," meaning America's next brightest homeless. But I knew Mr. Ham's biggest secret. For my next essay, I wrote it in Pig Latin, explaining how I found his degree was actually a 3-month certificate program in South America, just to learn English. The next day he pulled me aside. He told me, "Please don't ruin this all for me." I told him I didn't understand, and to repeat it in Pig Latin. "That's what this is about? I'll stop speaking it. Please, keep quiet." It was too late. Before I submitted my essay, I already sent a full 15-page document exposing Mr. Ham to the school district. How upidstay of me. Every time we heard a knock on the front door, my dad would yell, "Stealth mode," and we had 30 seconds to kill every light in the house. My brother and I would race through the rooms, flipping switches, yanking cords, shutting off the TV mid-show, while some guy outside banged on the front door yelling, "I know you're in there, buddy." Dad timed us. Once everything was dark, no talking, no moving, no looking out the windows. We'd sit there until Dad did his owl hoot, which meant all clear. Sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes almost an hour. Afterwards, he'd high-five us and go, "Real ninjas couldn't do better." He told us stealth mode was top secret. Never tell your teachers, your friends, nobody. Other people wouldn't understand. For years, I believed him. When I was 8, I asked Dad why we had to hide so much. He said some annoying guy kept bothering our family, and stealth mode was how we dealt with him. I felt proud we had a secret skill that could outsmart bad guys. By the time I was 10, I heard the voice outside yell something about a bet and $20. I tugged Dad's sleeve and whispered, "Is the bad guy trying to steal our money?" Dad shushed me so hard I flinched. When I was 12, I broke the window rule, peeked through the blinds and saw a completely normal guy in a polo shirt standing on the porch rubbing his forehead. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like someone's tired uncle. At 13, I told Dad I was just going to open the door and tell the guy to leave us alone. The color left his face. You absolutely cannot do that. That was the first time stealth mode didn't feel like a game. By 15 or 16, it barely happened anymore. But when it did, Dad would peek through the blinds looking guilty. Mom just shook her head from the couch and muttered something under her breath. I was 17 and home alone when I heard it. I know you're in there. It's been 12 years, man. I opened the front door. The guy nearly fell backwards. Normal-looking dude, middle-aged, holding a crumpled piece of paper. Oh, hi. Is your dad home? I'm his old college roommate. He held up the paper. Your old man bet me $20 Michael Jordan wouldn't win his 6th ring. That was 1998. I've been knocking on this door ever since. He handed me the IOU, both their signatures, right there at the bottom. I left it on the kitchen table. Mom saw it first and laughed so hard she had to hold the counter. Dad picked it up, read it, put it back down, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "So now he knows someone's home." Then he turned off the kitchen light and got under the table. We were never in danger. My dad just lost a bet because of the greatest of all time. My girlfriend's mom said I couldn't afford dinner, not knowing I could buy her entire neighborhood. I stood up to greet my girlfriend's mom, Dolores, and she instantly squeezed my bicep and asked, "Are all mechanics built as small as you? My daughter's ex, Leo, works out every morning before court." I just smiled politely, but then she asked if I'd even finished high school because Leo graduated from Yale. When she saw I was uncomfortable, she got bolder. "Does being a mechanic make you bad in bed?" She didn't stop even when the check came, saying, "You're a mechanic. You can't afford to pay for steak." Little did she know I owned 23 dealerships and could buy the entire restaurant. Dolores escalated months later at my girlfriend's birthday party when she invited Leo, stood him next to me, and pointed out how he towered over me. She ran her hand along Leo's suit, then pointed at my shirt. This is the difference between a lawyer and a mechanic. The humiliation continued when she asked where I lived, and before I could answer, told the room. He rents a studio with roommates at 28. Leo owns a 3-bedroom. She turned to my girlfriend. "You should have never dumped Leo." "Mom, stop it right now," my girlfriend said, but Dolores waved her off. The 4th of July barbecue was when Dolores crossed the line. We were watching the kids play with sparklers when she suddenly said, "I hope you don't give me grandkids. You're not dad material." 2 days later, Dolores dragged me to her dealership because her car was making noises and she wanted to prove I couldn't fix it. While she was complaining to the service manager, an older mechanic pointed at me and asked, "Why didn't anyone tell me the owner was visiting?" The word owner hit Dolores like a slap and her mouth hung open as she turned to look at me. The service manager typed on his computer and turned his monitor toward us. My face was at the top of the company directory with CEO in bold and my 23 locations listed below. Dolores's face went from horrified to devastated. She started stammering about always respecting honest work and how she was just testing me, but her mascara was already running. I suggested she wait outside while I fixed her car. At our wedding, she sat in the back row and left before the reception, finally silent after months of never missing a chance to tear me down. Everyone laughed at my shoes because they knew I was the poorest kid at school. I lived in an orphanage, didn't have parents, but when one of my friends asked me to sleep over at his house, I couldn't believe it. His mom picked us up after school, and when we got to his house, I couldn't believe my eyes. He had his own TV in his room, more shoes than I'd ever owned in my life, and the softest bed I've ever felt. His mom woke us up the next morning and said, "Do you guys want some pancakes?" I was in heaven. I couldn't even remember the last time I had pancakes. But just before I could tell her yes, he yelled, "Get out, Mom! We don't want your stupid pancakes." She looked upset. "Maybe your friend would like some honey." I opened my mouth, but again he yelled, "No! Get out, Mom! You ruin everything." She looked like she was about to cry, but just slowly closed the door.
With Robinhood Gold, you can instantly start earning 3.35% APY with high yield cash.
Want software to help manage and grow your fitness business? Get MindBody, the proven solution empowering gyms, Pilates and yoga studios, and more. Trusted by 40,000 brands worldwide. Get
I sat there in shock and looked over at him. He just went to bed like nothing even happened, and I immediately started grabbing my things. "Wait, no, please don't go." I kept packing. I opened the door and saw his mom still in tears in the kitchen. "Please, you're my only friend." And in that moment, I turned around and said, "Yeah, I can see why." I took a pair of his shoes and walked out. When I was 6, my dad handed me a $20 bill and told me to step on it every time someone at school made me feel worthless. The first week, I stepped on it every day. I stepped on it when my clothes were called ugly and when kids called me stupid. I stepped on it every time someone stepped on me. By the end of the month, I'd stepped on it 57 times and felt extremely worthless. I brought the bill to my dad, and he brought me to the store with the now torn and dirty $20 bill. He told me to pick what I wanted. I grabbed armfuls of candy and put them on the counter. My dad told me to now pay, and I took out the $20. The cashier started bagging my candy, and my dad pointed out that my bill was still accepted no matter how destroyed it was, telling me me I was just like the bill. My value was defined by who I was, not by how many times I'd been stepped on. My roommate had a black card but lived off instant ramen. I never understood why, because he could buy our entire cafeteria if he wanted to. That was until the night his dad took us out to celebrate my roommate's perfect GPA at a 5-star restaurant. He walked in already tipsy, bragging about his new yacht before we even sat down. The waiter brought out a $200 Wagyu steak. His dad cut one piece, chewed it, and spit it right onto the white tablecloth. "Too well done," he said loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "Bring me another and get me the chef." The chef came out trembling. This tiny lady who looked like everyone's grandmother. His dad made her stand right there while he ate the new steak bite by bite. Dry on the second piece, bland on the third. She just stood there with her hands folded, staring at the floor. My roommate sat through the whole thing, shoulders hunched, eyes on his plate, like this was just another dinner. When his dad left the table for a business call, my roommate got up and pulled the chef aside. He handed her an envelope with his saved-up meal plan money. "For the staff's dinner," he whispered, "and I'm sorry about him." That's when it clicked. He wasn't broke. He was giving his meal plan money away every month. The ramen was a choice. He'd rather go hungry than become his dad. He'd been going to her kitchen every Sunday for months, learning to cook. Last week he opened his own restaurant. Anyone who disrespects his staff gets banned, even his dad. This story was really nice. Mrs. Whitley held up her hand. "Stop. Nice is a nothing word. Give me 3 better ones and use each in a sentence." She did this every single class. You couldn't say nice, bad, fun, cool, or good without getting stopped and sent to the dictionary. One of my classmates leaned over after the 3rd correction in one period and whispered, "What if we gave her what she wanted?" The next morning someone walked in and said, "Good morning, Mrs. Whitley." She raised her hand. Before she could speak, he corrected himself. "My apologies. The atmospheric conditions this morning are absolutely invigorating, and the fluorescent ambiance of your classroom fills me with an overwhelming sense of scholastic enthusiasm." She lowered her hand. "That's actually wonderful. See, doesn't that feel better than good?" During the same period, a girl raised her hand. "Mrs. Whitley, may I request temporary leave to vacate the premises and access the communal sanitation chamber?" She paused. "You mean the bathroom? I believe that's the primitive term." Yes. She let her go, but her smile was gone. The next day, a kid raised his hand during a reading assignment. "Mrs. Whitley, might I trouble you for assistance in obtaining a graphite-based instrument traditionally utilized for the purpose of written expression?" She stared at him. "You want a pencil, if that's what you'd like to call it." By day 3, every answer on every assignment was a paragraph. Every question was a speech. She called on a kid for a one-word answer, and he stood up and delivered a 45-second monologue that used the word "nevertheless" 3 times. She shut her book. "Please, I am begging you, just talk like normal people." A kid in the back raised his hand. "Mrs. Whitley, are you requesting a regression to the primitive and unsophisticated linguistic patterns you once so passionately implored us to abandon?" She grabbed her head with both hands. "Yes, please just use normal words." On the next assignment I wrote, "This book was really nice." She gave me a B+. I'm a flying instructor, and one day, while in the air with a man taking a one-on-one lesson, he reached into his shoe and pulled out a knife. "Fly exactly where I say, or you're never coming home to your kids again." My whole body froze. He placed a piece of paper with coordinates in front of me and pressed the blade against my neck. I asked him how he got the knife in here, and he told me the security guard never actually bothered to scan him. His face was completely calm. No sweat, no shaking. Like he'd already decided how this was going to go. He told me to just fly, so I did. I tried asking him where we were going, but he didn't answer. Just sat behind me with the blade against my seat, staring straight ahead. Every few minutes he'd check his watch and tell me, "Fly faster. I don't have time." I thought about grabbing my phone, but the second my eyes moved to it, he pressed the knife against my neck hard enough to draw blood. One wrong move. I realized I had no choice, and just flew. When we finally reached the coordinates, it was just a field. I asked him if this was actually it, and he told me aggressively to just land. I brought the plane down, and my heart was pounding out of my chest. But the second we stopped, everything about him changed. He put the knife down. His hands started shaking. He opened his wallet and shoved every bill inside into my hand. "Thank you. I'm so sorry for this, but my daughter is in emergency surgery at that hospital and she might not make it." He pointed behind me at the hospital across the field. This was the quickest way to get to her. He jumped out and sprinted across the field. I went home that day and fired my security guy. I was sweeping my garage when my neighbor stormed in and screamed, "Murderer!" Mr. Gray's cat Mittens had been missing for 3 days, and I'd seen him putting up wanted posters to find me because I was never home. Now he found me. He pointed at a tuft of gray and white fur. "Evidence!" I pulled it out and held it up. "That's from a winter coat." That's exactly what a murderer would say. He spotted the metal cage I'd set near the wall for the raccoon that kept raiding my trash. He pulled a single gray hair off the wire and held it up like he was in a courtroom. Mrs. Walden poked her head through the garage garage door. Is everything all right? Gray waved the cage at her. He murdered Mittens. Mrs. Walden looked at me and gasped. You monster! More neighbors drifted up the driveway behind her. Gray pointed at the garbage bags in my truck. He's disposing of the body. I threw my hands up. It's old paint cans and Christmas lights. Exactly what someone guilty would say. I slammed my broom on the floor. Fine. Search the whole garage. They pulled out boxes and flipped open bins while Gray supervised with his arms crossed. Someone held up a crumpled tarp and asked if it was cat-related. A meow cut through the garage. Everyone froze. Gray looked at me like he'd caught his confession. I pulled the door open and a squirrel shot off the shelf, landed on my shoulder, and launched itself into the crowd. Mrs. Walden screamed and grabbed onto Gray. Half the driveway scattered. Mrs. Walden was still holding onto Gray's arm when we heard another meow. This one came from outside. Mittens was stretched across the hood of Gray's own car, yawning. I looked at Gray. That's exactly what a kidnapper's car would look like. My teacher barged in sweating and screamed, "Does anybody here know a lawyer?" Before we could respond, Mr. Scully opened his drawers, shoving papers into his bag, and I saw something black and metallic fall in too. He screamed again, "Does anyone know a lawyer?" I don't know why, but I raised my hand. My uncle, his head snapped. "You, with me, now!" He rushed to me and physically dragged me out. We reached the parking lot where his car was already running with its doors open. But just as we were about to get in, 2 police cruisers pulled into the school entrance. Mr. Scully went pale and quickly shoved us in, immediately flooring the accelerator. He ducked and shoved my head down too. We drove past the cruisers without seeing the road. When he told me I could sit up, I reached for the door handle, but it had the child lock enabled. Mr. Scully clenched his jaw. "I just need your help. Then you can go. Call your uncle and tell him I'll pay triple." I didn't want to, but when I saw the metallic object sticking from the bag at his feet, I realized I had no choice. I called my uncle, but Mr. Scully snatched my phone. He turned the camera to prove I was safe, and after explaining everything, my uncle told us to come to his office. When we arrived, Mr. Scully dumped his bag on my uncle's desk. Skydiving licenses, photos of a woman, a laptop, flash drives, but the metallic object wasn't there. "I'm being accused of my ex-wife's death, but I didn't kill her, I swear," he said. My uncle asked questions, and Mr. Scully explained his ex-wife and her new husband had a skydiving accident where Mr. Scully worked over the summer. Their equipment failed, but my uncle noticed the official report showed Mr. Scully had signed off on their equipment being safe. My uncle made a face and quickly said he needs to talk to me alone. We walked to the bathroom, but I saw Mr. Scully's eyes go wide. My uncle wrote me a note. He did it. I know when they're lying. I already texted 911. Play dumb until they arrive. I was sweating because I now had to act for my life. We opened the bathroom door, and Mr. Scully was there with the gun pointed at us. "You think I'm guilty?" My uncle put his hands up, realizing he had to drop the act. "I'll defend you, but I can't if you hurt us." Mr. Scully hesitated, then he pressed the gun against my ribs and told us to walk. In the office, he kept it at my ribs. One wrong move and I'll fire. I kept thinking about how police were coming, and how if they barged in, he'd shoot me. Mr. Scully pulled up the videos he took of them falling and his diary. They saw me and didn't even recognize me. He grabbed her hand on the way down and held it the whole time. It was beautiful to watch. My uncle was on his phone, pretending to take notes, but actually communicating with the officers. But Mr. Scully noticed him. "What's that?" He lunged at my uncle, and that's when the front door exploded open. Cops ran in. Mr. Scully whipped his gun around and aimed it at me. I covered my face, ready to die, and heard him pull the trigger. His gun went off, but I felt nothing. I opened my eyes and saw Mr. Scully on the floor, having shot himself in the head. A teenager tried to hospitalize my 9-year-old over air hockey. He slammed the air hockey puck into my son's goal and won the game, throwing his hands up and screaming, "Yeah!" My 9-year-old looked upset, but still reached out to shake his hand, but the teenager slapped it away and pointed in my son's face. "Loser! You're a loser!" He turned back to his girlfriend on the bench and grinned at her. "Did you see that shot, babe? I totally destroyed him," and she gave him a weak smile. I stepped forward and said, "Hey man, he's 9. You shouldn't call kids names," but he barely looked at me. Yeah, whatever you say, old man." But then my son came over to me and asked if he could play the kid again. I gave him another coin, then gave him some tips. The second game started, and the teenager was still laughing until my son scored the first goal. We high-fived, and the kid's face just went red with anger. From that moment on, he stopped even trying to score and just started slamming the puck so hard the table shook, literally trying to lift it off the table and hit my son. My 9-year-old was flinching behind his mallet, and the kid kept glancing back at his girlfriend after every hit to see if she was watching. Then, one of the pucks flew up off the table and hit my son right in the forehead. My son dropped his mallet and started crying as a bruise began forming on his head, and the kid burst out laughing. He looked back at his girlfriend. "Babe, did you see that? He's actually crying," but she wasn't laughing. That's when I walked over, put my hand hand on my son's shoulder, moved him aside, and put a coin in. My turn, the teenager grinned. I don't want to commit elder abuse, but then I served, and the first goal went in before he even touched the puck. His smile dropped. I scored again, and he slammed his mallet hard on the table. His girlfriend giggled behind him. The third goal, he started hitting himself with the mallet in anger, and when I scored the final goal, he grabbed the entire table and literally shoved it sideways. My son was laughing at him, and his girlfriend stood up. "You're embarrassing me." He tried to chase after her, but security stopped him and ordered him to come with them. My downstairs neighbor knocked on my door and told me her and her husband were doing renovation work, so if I heard anything, just ignore it. Over the next few hours, I heard banging and drilling, but after they were done, water stopped coming out of my tap. Instead, it was this horrible rancid smell that was so bad I doubled over. I tried the kitchen tap, but again no water, just that rotting stench. I called a plumber immediately. He came over, traced the pipes, and said the damage was because of my downstairs neighbor. Something had punctured the pipe in her wall. She opened the door, and when the plumber explained we needed to come in, her face went white. She said now wasn't a good time, and quickly closed the door. The plumber shrugged and said he could try something else. He spent an hour working, but when I went back to my apartment and turned the tap on, there was still no water, and the smell was still there. I called the plumber back and told him whatever he did didn't work. The only option was getting behind the neighbor's wall. We went back to her door and knocked. "Do you really need to come in?" The plumber nodded. "There's no other way, ma'am. I need to see behind that wall." She looked at me, then back at the plumber. "Are you sure? You're absolutely sure you really want to come in?" The plumber said yes. She stood there for a second, then smiled extremely wide and stepped aside. "Okay, no problem. Come right in." Something about her sudden high-pitched voice made my stomach turn. We walked in, and I instantly noted how there seemed to be no work done, no paint, no drills, or anything signaling renovation. The only thing that seemed different was the huge painting in front of me, hung on the exact wall that the pipes ran behind. "What kind of work did you do?" I asked, trying to sound casual. The woman stared at me with that same smile and said, "The usual kind. It was mostly just hanging up this painting." I thought about it. What kind of painting takes hours of banging and drilling to hang up? The plumber told her he was sorry, but he needed to take it down and open the wall up to see the pipe. Her eyes went wide. She paused for a minute. "Is that really necessary?" The plumber nodded. The woman stared at him before smiling, "Of course," and turning away towards the kitchen. "Just getting you a drink while you were." Everything about her felt wrong. I was watching the plumber work when suddenly I heard something behind me. Soft tiptoes, like someone trying not to make a sound. I turned and saw her inching toward us with a kitchen knife over her head. She lunged at me, but the plumber heard. He spun around and threw the wrench in his hand at her head. It caught her in the temple, and she hit the floor. My hands were shaking. The plumber's were too. We looked at each other and then at the wall. He pulled the painting off and opened it. When he did, we both backed up. Her husband's body was in the wall. His wounds were still fresh. I realized the renovation I'd heard wasn't renovation at all. It was her unaliving him and sealing him inside the wall. The crazy part is, she would have gotten away with it. But when she hung up the painting, the nail she hammered through the wall also went through my pipe, allowing the smell to seep into the pipe and through my tap. My wife and I sat down and both agreed that we wouldn't be having any more kids. We loved our daughter, but we'd just gotten promotions and really wanted to focus on our careers. But then one day, our daughter handed me her family drawing that she'd made in school. Me, her mom, her, and a fourth person with an arrow pointed towards her mom's belly. I asked, "Who's that fourth person?" And my daughter's eyes lit up. "That's the baby inside mom's belly. She told me I'm going to be a big sister." I froze, and when I looked over, my wife was standing in the doorway. "We're having a baby boy," she smiled with tears in her eyes. "I know we said we wanted to focus on our careers, but I can be a stay-at-home mom, and you can keep working. If you pick up extra hours, you'll make enough for us both." I still thought she was joking, until I put my hands on her belly and felt something move inside. She smiled at me again. "Well, what do you think?" That's when I replied, "I think now is a good time to tell you. I got a vasectomy 3 months ago. I know that baby's not mine." Her face dropped, but I walked out without responding, and after thinking about it, I realized she only suggested being a stay-at-home mom, so the real dad could come over while I worked overtime. During lunch period, my lunch lady aunt slipped me a note. "Don't eat any of the food. Something's going on." I looked up at her, but she was already serving the next kid, not making eye contact. "What's this?" I whispered. She ignored me and kept serving. I sat down down with my usual group. Everyone was eating. The pizza looked normal, smelled normal. Owen took a huge bite. Finally, decent pizza. I pushed mine around my plate and pretended to eat. Not hungry? Taylor asked. Big breakfast. 20 minutes into lunch, Liam grabbed his stomach. Oh shit. He ran to the bathroom fast. Dude probably ate too fast. Owen laughed. Then Chloe doubled over. Oh god. She ran too. Didn't make it. Vomit hit the cafeteria floor. Within 5 minutes, 10 kids had fled to bathrooms. Then 20. Then the sound started. Explosions from the bathrooms. Crying. Begging. Owen's face went white mid-sentence. He stood up and immediately shit himself right there. It ran down his legs. Help me, he whispered. Taylor projectile vomited across the table. It hit 3 people. The cafeteria erupted. Kids running, falling, bodily fluids everywhere. Jenna collapsed by the door, lost control of everything, lying in her own waste, crying. Call 911, someone screamed, but the screamer then doubled over and added to the nightmare on the floor. I ran to the bathroom. Every stall was occupied. Kids were using sinks, urinals, trash cans, the floor. The smell was unbearable. Shit, vomit, sweat. Ramon was on his knees in the hallway. It won't stop coming out. Brown liquid pooled around him. Teachers were trying to help, but getting sick from the smell. Miss Harrington vomited just from walking into the bathroom. Everyone stop eating, Principal Avery announced over the intercom, but 300 kids had already eaten. The hallway was a war zone. Kids crawling through their own waste. Some passed out in it. I saw Eric literally tear his pants off in desperation. No shame left, just animal panic. The cheerleaders were huddled together, crying, their white uniforms destroyed. Maddie was convulsing on the floor. My intestines are coming out, she screamed. Blood in her waist now. Others too. Ambulances arrived. EMTs walked in and immediately walked back out. We need hazmat, one yelled. The gym became a makeshift hospital. Kids on stretchers, IVs everywhere. The smell made nurses gag. It's not stopping, Chloe cried. Completely empty, but still cramping. Some kids were hallucinating from dehydration. Drew thought he was dying, kept saying goodbye to his mom who wasn't there. Mass poisoning event, the EMT announced. This isn't food poisoning. I found my aunt cleaning in the kitchen. Calm. Tia, people are dying. No one's dying. But then I saw Rosa, the other lunch lady. She was at the back door with her purse, trying to leave. Where are you going? I asked. Home. My last day. During this, she smiled. They got what they deserved. My blood went cold. What did you do? 10 years of lunch lady slop, of Rosa's mystery meat, of throwing food at me. You poisoned them. Extra ingredient. Industrial strength laxative. The kind they use for colonoscopy prep. Times 10. Times 10? Your aunt didn't know. She served clean food to you. I look at the cafeteria. Kids were being carried out, covered in their own shit. The floor was slick with bodily fluids. This could kill them. They'll shit for days. Maybe have a little respect for the people who feed you. I was stopped at a red light when headlights flashed across my mirror and everything went sideways. The airbag slammed my head back and guacamole from my DoorDash order flew everywhere. I couldn't hear anything except ringing. I crawled out through the passenger side, tried to stand, and my legs gave out. I'm on my hands and knees on the pavement when I hear, "Bro, what the hell? My brand new car. I just got it yesterday." An orange Hellcat was sitting sideways in the intersection with smoke coming off the tires. Some kid was standing over me screaming, "Why'd you reverse into me?" I looked up at him from the ground. "I can't feel my legs." "I don't care about your legs. Look what you did to my car." He pulled out his phone and started filming his Hellcat without even glancing at me or my flipped car. "My dad's a lawyer, so you're either gonna pay for my car or we're gonna bury you." I couldn't even stand up, and this kid was threatening to sue me. Cops showed up 10 minutes later, and the kid completely transformed, limping and holding his neck. He told the officer I reversed into his Hellcat for no reason. The cop took one look at my Corolla on its side next to the brand new Hellcat and didn't even ask for my side. He gave me the ticket and left. I'm sitting on the curb holding my legs when a second cruiser pulled up. The kid saw it and started limping again. The door opened and I heard, "Oh hell no." It was my dad's buddy from the neighborhood. He'd been on patrol and heard the call. He crouched down next to me. "Tell me everything." I told him what happened. He looked at both cars and shook his head. "I believe you, but without proof there's nothing I can do. Is there anything? Any witness? Any camera? Anything?" I almost said no. Then I looked at my Corolla and saw it through the cracked windshield. The dash cam I installed 6 months ago to catch DoorDash scammers. Still mounted to the dash, right where I left it. Actually, yeah, I do. He watched me crawl over to my car, reach through the broken window, and pull out the SD card. He plugged it was one file already saved, called "Just Playing It First to make sure it works." I realized Grandpa figured out the controls despite his Alzheimer's, just so the present was perfect for me. I loaded up the saved file and saw the character that Grandpa had created was called Mike. I started crying again, and the next day, I proudly brought the Game Boy into school and didn't let anyone laugh at me. My dad walked into the shop as I was about to get my hair cut and sat down, then started staring at my barber with this crazy look I'd never seen before. I asked him if he was okay, but he ignored me and told the barber, "Shave an S into my son's head right now." I protested because I didn't want that, but my dad clenched his jaw. "I don't care what he wants. Shave the S." Barber was sweating and apologizing. "I'm sorry, kid. My right hand is also missing a pinky finger, so it's rending at the window." What was she? Then pulled the scissors out of the barber's hands. He pointed them towards the barber and told me, "Now leave. Wait outside until it's done." I instantly freaked out and asked him, "Please tell me what's going on." I said go outside, right now.
Okay, let's go. All right. Come on. Okay.
voice shook with Whitley arrested the barber. They walked him out, and I ran over to my dad begging him to burn scar on her wrist. It matched the S the barber had shaved into my head perfectly. That barber was the man who kidnapped your sister and held her hostage. She bit off his pinky and escaped. I'm sorry for Matt handed a trash bag of his old clothes. Be more grateful. My dad said his favorite phrase, if you don't like it, get out. But this time, I stuffed everything I owned into the bag and walked out. I was halfway towards the park when my birthday card slipped out. I looked inside for money and handed me her phone. I've had this saved for 18 years. My bio mom's Facebook page. Every year on my birthday, she posted the same thing. My baby photo, my name, and please help me find my son. When my bio parents opened the front door, they hugged me tighter than anyone had before. My aunt drove off, and my mom walked me inside to a table full of food. But I started crying. Why did you give me up? She squeezed my hand. We were 16. Our parents didn't give us a choice, but we never stopped loving you. When I reached into my trash bag to grab tissue, my bio parents gasped. Are those your belongings? I told them that was everything I owned. They opened it up. Why don't you have nicer things? I shrugged. They spend most of the money on my brother. We've been sending them money every month for you for 18 years. My bio dad immediately pulled out his phone to call his lawyer. They sued my adoptive parents for every penny they stole, and my adoptive parents lost the house, so they had to sell all my brother's designer clothes just to survive. I got hearing aids to find out what my cool friends really thought of me. Growing up, I was the unpopular deaf kid in the back of class who talked with his hands, but somehow my best friends were the coolest group of guys in school. They got invited to every party and played varsity basketball, but they also learned sign language and stayed after school practicing until they got it right. Especially my best friend Cade. He wouldn't go to the parties unless I was invited, and even taught my crush Iris to sign hi, so when I waved at her in the halls, she could sign back. Then on my 16th birthday, my mom got me hearing aids. I heard the world around me for the first time. I walked toward Cade's locker to surprise him, but then I heard a female voice. We can't keep doing this behind his back. Cade and Iris were huddled together. They hadn't seen me, and I ducked around the corner and listened closer. Cade said, what if he catches us? And Iris replied, he trusts you, just don't let him see us together. I decided not to tell anyone about the hearing aids. I needed to know what they were really saying when they thought I couldn't understand them. The next few days were the worst of my life. Cade and Iris were constantly together, sometimes even sneaking off into the bathroom. Cade asked me, what's wrong, once at lunch because I seemed so off, and I almost punched him. I even stopped sitting with the rest of the friend group because they acted like nothing was wrong. Then 3 days later, I saw Cade and Iris again huddled closely. He's pulling away from me. I'm worried he saw us. Cade's jaw was tight. Iris touched his hand. Just a bit longer. Don't let him catch on until Friday, please. Why Friday? I looked at my calendar and saw that this Friday, the school dance was taking place. I decided to confront them then. Friday night, I came into school ready. I spotted Cade across the hallway and started marching toward him. We made eye contact. I was about to tear him a new one, but then Iris suddenly stepped in front of me. What was she doing? I looked her in the eye and went to open my mouth, but she raised her hands and then started signing. Rough, shaky, barely readable, ASL. I really like you, she signed. Will you make me the happiest girl and go to the dance with me? I stared in shock. Then I replied, yes, out loud, and her eyes went huge. I pulled back my hair and showed her the hearing aid. Cade immediately sprinted over, hitting lockers and jumping around. Dude, you can hear. He hugged me so tight. The guys were right behind him. I realized Cade wasn't sneaking around with Iris. He was teaching her to sign so she could ask me out in my own language. I was eating some chocolates I found when my mom yelled, did you get those from my bedroom? Yeah, my fingers still covered. Mom's face went from confused to absolutely horrified. Oh my God, oh my God. She was actually shaking, but I was confused. She grabbed my shirt. How many did you eat? How many? I just had a few, Mom. But she was panting, already screaming for Dad. Get in here now. And when he ran in, he saw me with chocolate on my face watching cartoons and Mom pointing at the box. He said, no, tell me he didn't. He ate them. He ate at least 5. Mom was crying. Dad grabbed the box saying, I thought I hid them in our bedroom. I just wanted to know what it was. What's wrong with the chocolate? They just kept muttering, he's only 10, and who knows what this could do to him. But Dad tried to calm her down. Wait, maybe it won't be that bad. Are you kidding me right now? He's 9. My sister ran in, and when she read the box, she screamed, Mom, you bought these from that store? My mom just grabbed my arm. We're going to the hospital right now. And that's when I started crying because the hospital meant I had to be dying. The entire car ride there, my sister kept giggling. This isn't funny. Your brother could, but she said, I know. I yelled, Mom, tell me what I ate. You're too young to understand, sweetie. Just breathe, okay? She dragged me into the doctor's office and whispered something to the nurse. Her eyes went wide. Oh, how many did he consume? She was already pushing buttons, calling for a doctor, making me sit in a wheelchair, even though my legs worked fine. The nurse started checking me. Any tingling, flushing, racing thoughts, unusual sensations? Then the doctor came in, shaking his head. He looked upset. He whispered something to my mom, and when she put her hands in her face, face. I decided it was enough. I yelled, "What were they?" The doctor just looked at me, not knowing what to say. Then my sister yelled, "They were freaky chocolates!" They were so embarrassed, even the nurse laughed at them, and I can never look at my parents the same now. I pulled into the last disabled parking spot, and a man marched to my window with his arms crossed, pointing at the sign, telling me to move because he could barely walk while I clearly wasn't actually disabled. I looked back, and my daughter was pale in the back seat. She has severe PTSD, and confrontation makes her completely shut down. I told him the spot was for her, but he leaned down and looked into the back seat, looking her up and down and saying she looked fine to him. I heard my daughter's breathing getting faster, so I turned and said, "It's okay, sweetheart," but he started making faces at her, asking if sweetheart was scared because daddy was lying about her invisible disability. I told him to walk away, but he pointed at my daughter's legs and said she had no wheelchair, no crutches, and was just too lazy to walk an extra 50 feet when people who could barely stand like him actually needed this space. My daughter tried to speak up between gasps. "I'm not lazy," but he put his hand in her face. "I wasn't talking to you." I wanted to hit him and clenched my fist around the steering wheel, but he noticed. He stepped back and said, "Go ahead, hit me. I've had 4 surgeries on my knees and can't walk. I'll sue you for everything you have." But then I looked and saw his knees didn't have any surgical scars. I was about to point it out, but he pulled out his phone and shoved it at my daughter's face. "Smile, sweetheart. You're about to be famous for being a fraud." She started crying. "Stop, please stop." I couldn't take it and slapped the phone out of his hand. It skidded under a car, but instead of confronting me, he sprinted over and crouched into a squat completely effortlessly. He crawled under the car, and the only thing visible were his legs sticking out into the lane. I got out and wrapped my arms around my daughter. She buried her face in my chest, but then I heard her laugh. She pointed over my shoulder, and when I turned around, a white SUV was backing into the spot where his legs were sticking out. He turned his head from under the car and realized what was happening, but it was too late. The SUV rolled onto his calf, and I heard a crunch. He screamed, and his hands clawed at the pavement. The driver's face was horrified, and she hit the brakes, and the SUV was now chilling on his leg. Not knowing what to do, the driver reversed back off of his leg. I heard a second crunch. My daughter pointed at him. "You wanted to be disabled? You got it, mister." After gym class, I opened my locker and saw a note taped inside. "Check your backpack, then meet in the east stairwell in 2 minutes or I call police." I opened my bag and saw a handgun. I freaked out. I had 90 seconds to make it to the other end of the school before being reported. I sprinted, and when I reached the east stairwell, a kid was waiting for me. I recognized him instantly. The rich kid. He had no friends and always posted videos of guns and school bombings, but nothing was done because of his family's money. He told me, "You're Mr. Rick's lab aide. You have the key to the chemistry storage room, right?" I nodded. He smiled. "Good. Open it during next period and walk away." I wanted to tell him no, I wasn't doing it, but he pulled out his phone and typed 911. I knew I had no choice. 5 minutes later, I was in class and raised my hand, telling Mr. Rick I needed to go organize the storage room. He smiled wide and gave me a thumbs up, and I walked to the storage room. I scanned my key and opened it, but then I decided not to walk away. I slid behind the back shelf and waited because I needed to know what this was about. A few minutes later, the door opened, and instead of the kid, it was Mr. Rick. He walked in carrying an empty briefcase and started pulling bottles off shelves. Potassium nitrate, sulfur, metal powders. My stomach dropped because those were the chemicals needed to make bombs. But why would he be taking them? And why did the kid send me to open this door? I thought about it and then realized.
With Robinhood Gold, you can instantly start earning 3.35% APY with high yield cash.
This is Oliver's morning routine. His routine is better than most people, so I feel like I have to show you all. He starts off his morning.
Mr. Rick had massive gambling debt. He always joked about needing a second job. The kid's parents were rich. Rick was getting paid to make him a bomb. And then something else hit me. My name was on the access logs of the storage unit, not Mr. Rick's. Meaning, if anyone noticed the missing chemicals, the system would point to me. I was only here to take the fall. Rick locked the briefcase and walked out without seeing me, but I slipped out and followed. At the end of the corridor, I saw him meet the kid and show him the briefcase. The kid laughed, and Rick held up 5 fingers. They walked into the nearest empty chemistry lab, and I crept up to the door. I looked in and saw them combining the chemicals from the briefcase. I was now certain they were making a bomb. I sprinted to the principal's office, bursting in and telling him what was happening. I didn't care if they found the gun anymore. This was more important. He hit the emergency button, and 2 security guards responded immediately. All of us ran to the lab, and right as we got there, Rick and the kid were coming out with the briefcase. They saw us, and their faces went pale. They tried to walk away, but the guards grabbed them and forced them back into the lab. The principal principal pointed at the briefcase. "Open it!" Rick shook his head. The guard pulled out a gun and aimed it at Rick. Rick went even whiter and put in the code. Everyone tensed, expecting a timer. Instead, we saw 5 handmade firework shells packed in foam. "His father asked me to make fireworks for his birthday," Rick said. "It's not a bomb." Everyone exhaled, but then the kid spoke. "What? No, I told you I was gonna set them off in class." The guards tackled him. When I saw Kimberly walking out of the boys' bathroom, I asked, "What were you doing in there?" She instantly froze. "I wasn't. I just accidentally went through the wrong door." But I knew that wasn't the truth. I was about to open it when she grabbed my arm. "No, don't! You can't go in there!" And before I could even ask her why, I heard someone crying. "What was that?" "I don't know. Maybe it's best if we don't go in there." But I pushed the door open as she said, "No." Someone whispered, "Is someone there? Please help me." I pushed open the stall door and saw Leslie Reddick sitting on the floor holding a bunch of towels. I gasped, realizing she was pregnant and her water broke. "Please, help me." Her dad was our gym teacher, and I knew if he found out his daughter was giving birth at school, things would get messy. Just then, Kimberly burst through the door with the school nurse, and as soon as she looked at Leslie, she gasped, "Please, just don't let my dad see me." The nurse turned to me. "You, go keep watch outside. Make sure nobody comes in here and sees her." "What? We need to get her to a hospital." "There's no time, just go." I stepped outside trying to keep watch until a group of guys walked up to me all holding vapes. They tried to walk into the bathroom, but I stopped them. "No, you can't go vape in there." They looked confused. "What? Why?" But before I could make up some excuse, we all heard it. A scream from inside the bathroom. I thought, "Oh no, the baby must be coming." They said, "Whoa, what's happening in there?" "Nothing, I swear. Just go use the bathroom upstairs." But then more people started crowding around. "Who's screaming? I have to pee so bad." This was bad. But then I saw him. Mr. Reddick was coming down the hallway. He walked up to the crowd with this confused look on his face and asked, "Has anyone seen my daughter?" Oh no, I had to make up a lie fast, but before I could say anything, we all heard Leslie. "Oh my God, ah!" One of the girls said, "Hey, that kinda sounds like her in there." Mr. Reddick realized it was her and shoved past me. Oh no, we heard him yell, "What is this?" But they still had no idea what was happening until we heard Mr. Reddick yell, "Who's the father? Is it Felix? I swear I'll kill him." Everyone gasped and looked at Felix. He had been dating Leslie for 9 months, and it all perfectly added up. He was sweating and started backing up. But then the door burst open, and we saw Mr. Reddick standing there. You could see the veins in his forehead. We heard the nurse yelling, "Come on, push!" Then we heard crying from inside the bathroom. Mr. Reddick yelled, "You got her pregnant!" But Felix panicked and turned, running down the hallway. Mr. Reddick took off after him like a track star. He caught up and tackled him to the ground, just as we saw Leslie come out of the bathroom holding something. "Dad, no!" Mr. Reddick pinned him to the ground and instantly started swinging, completely destroying Felix's face. Everyone panicked and pulled him off, and by the time they held him back, Leslie was crying. She yelled, "Dad, it's not his!" And when she said that, everyone went silent. Mr. Reddick stopped struggling, and even Felix looked up from the ground. Everyone's eyes went to the baby, and that's when we all saw it. Because even though Felix's face was beaten and purple, he was white. And when we saw the baby, it was definitely black. Everybody gasped when Roxanne walked into class without hair for the first time, because we all found out she had cancer. She started wearing a wig, and everyone felt horrible, except for the 2 guys behind her. They'd always make fun of her, until one of them started acting really friendly. I thought it was weird, but by the time I noticed why, it was already too late. She raised her hand to go to the bathroom, and I saw the fishing hook in her hair, and as she stood up, they were both laughing. I tried to stop them, but when she walked to the front, they pulled it. Her wig flew off in front of everybody, and she immediately clutched her head and started crying. She was battling cancer, and these guys had the audacity to do this. I knew I couldn't just sit there, so at lunch that day, I told everyone on my football team what I saw, and when we found those 2 guys, they both weren't expecting it. The teachers had to pull us off, and the police had to arrest us all. And when we went to the principal's office, I told her everything. We were getting ready to get suspended, expelled, but when she stood up, she pulled off her wig, showing us she didn't have hair. We were all shocked, and she told us she was proud for sticking up for the girl. But since violence was never the answer, we were suspended for a week. Those 2 guys had to choose between being expelled and shaving their heads. Roxanne laughed the hardest. My twin brother Chris and I were 9 when we learned Morse code. We tapped messages under the dinner table when Mom told us to stop talking and tapped through the wall between our bedrooms every night. When Chris got into a car accident and the doctor said he'd never wake up, I pulled up a chair next to his bed, took his hand, and tapped. "Are you there?" Nothing. But I came back the next afternoon and tapped again. Before I left, I always said the same thing. "See you tomorrow, Chris." A week later, Chris's fingers twitched against mine, and I almost fell out of my chair. I grabbed a nurse and she barely looked up. They're reflexes. It doesn't mean anything. I bought a notebook the next day and started writing down every single one. 4 months in, Mom watched me scribbling and said, "How long are you gonna keep doing this?" "Until he taps back." "He's not gonna tap back. You're talking to a corpse." Dad lasted a few more months before he pulled me into the hallway. "We need to talk about donating your your brother's organs. His fingers move every time I hold his hand, Dad. The nurses said those are reflexes. Stop getting your hopes up, son. I don't care what the nurses say. You're not donating my brother's organs. But a week later, my parents called to have Chris transferred to a long-term facility to die and scheduled a meeting to sign the papers. The afternoon before the meeting, I tapped into his palm like always, but this time, something tapped back. Short, short, short. Long, long, long. Short, short, short. SOS. I grabbed his hand. Chris, if that's you, squeeze once. He squeezed so hard my knuckles cracked. I stormed into the meeting room and told them my brother just responded to me. The caseworker said, "This is very common with families who aren't ready to let go." My parents nodded. I grabbed the transfer papers off the table. "You're not signing anything until you come see for yourself." I walked them to Chris's bed and grabbed his hand. "Ask him anything." The caseworker asked what year it was. Chris squeezed out the answer. Count to 5. 5 perfect squeezes. His mother's name, tapped out letter by letter. By the 10th question, she said, "He's still alive. We can't move him." Weeks later, I asked Chris what kept him fighting when everyone gave up. Heard mom call me a corpse. Heard dad say donate my organs. Heard all of them leave, except you. I asked why. I wanted to see you too. The second my mom pulled up to my school, I saw she was mad. And as soon as I opened the car door, she held up my report card. "Are you kidding me? Not a single A on here." I tried to tell her I was sorry. I tried my best. She threw it at me. "Maybe if you didn't stay up all night tapping that dumb secret code on your brother's wall, you'd actually be able to focus." I felt my heart beating. I pulled out my phone to text my brother. "Mom's really mad. I think she might," but she grabbed it from my hand. Always on this stupid phone too. I could see her face turning red. But when I looked forward, "Mom, watch out." She saw the car too and screamed. It smashed right into us. Glass was everywhere and I hit my head. I didn't know where I was. I tried to open my eyes, but nothing was moving. Then I heard someone, "Listen, kid, he's never gonna wake up." "No, please, he has to." It was my brother. I tried moving my hands, screaming. Nothing worked. But then, someone tapped my hand. I instantly recognized it. "Chris, are you there?" I squeezed my hand as hard as I could, but it didn't move. But he stood up. "See you tomorrow, Chris." I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Someone else came in. "We should just pull the plug. I'm not paying for a vegetable. We'll get more money from donating anyways." It was my mom. She was talking about selling me, but I was still here. Jake came back, tapping about his day. I knew I had to warn him. I squeezed my arm. It felt like concrete. "Please, anything. They'll kill me." Then it twitched. He gasped. He ran out to grab them. "That's just a reflex." "No, it's him. You're talking to a corpse." That night, I heard my mom. "He's gone. We need to pull the plug." I tried to move. Then, my shoulder twitched. My dad screamed. He moved." They were silent. "If he wakes up, we get nothing. We need to get that paperwork signed." They ran out, and I knew I didn't have long. I felt someone tap my hand again. "Chris, please wake up. They're gonna kill you." I squeezed. I needed a miracle. Then, my fingers moved. I said the first thing I thought of. SOS. "Chris, I knew it!" He instantly ran out of the room. "Guys, he's awake! He's awake!" They rushed in. I squeezed their hands. They saw it all. I heard my mom. "He's still alive. We can't move him." But I knew what she said. That night, I tapped it all out to my brother as he wrote it down. He couldn't believe it. Then, when I finally opened my eyes, they gasped. My mom hugged me. "Honey, you're alive!" But I didn't hug her back. The doors opened behind them, and when the cops walked in, my parents looked nervous. "What's going on? Can we help you?" They were pissed. They slammed them both in handcuffs, and when they looked, Jake was holding up everything I said. I could barely move my arm, but used all my strength to raise my hand. Then my middle finger. A teenager stumbled into my gas station at midnight and said, "My parents are trying to kill me. Please let me hide." He was erratic and shaking, and I instantly noticed the welts on his arms. Suddenly, headlights pulled into the parking lot outside, and the kid started crying. "That's them." He immediately ran behind me and into the back room, and I gave him a baseball bat to protect himself in case something goes wrong. As soon as I closed the back door, the parents walked in. The dad immediately started scanning the store, and the mom asked me, "Please, have you seen our son?" She put a missing person poster on the counter, and I recognized it as the boy immediately. I shook my head and told her no, but then she pointed to the camera above me. "Can I check the footage just in case? He's not well."
Want software to help manage and grow your fitness business? Get MindBody, the proven solution empowering gyms, Pilates and yoga studios, and more. Trusted by 40,000 brands worldwide.
If he told you something, he's lying. I replied that the security footage was private, so I couldn't access it. But that's when the dad stepped behind the counter and looked at the back room. Is there anyone else in this store? I blocked his path and said no, but I was sweating, and I could tell he didn't believe me. Suddenly, I heard a crash from the back room where the teenage boy was. I tried to think quickly and told the dad it was just a raccoon, but then I heard another crash. Before I could do anything else, the dad shoved me aside and opened the back door. The teenage boy was still there, for some reason now smashing everything with the bat. The shelves were broken and stock was spilled across the floor. He turned around and his eyes locked onto me and he screamed, "I know you locked me in here to kill me. I won't let you." I froze because I didn't understand, but the boy was already running towards me and swinging the bat directly at my head. I closed my eyes and braced for impact, but then suddenly I felt something hit the floor. The dad had tackled the boy and was on the ground pinning him down, fighting to keep him restrained. The mom quickly pulled out medical papers from her bag and gave them to me, then dropped to her son, repeating, "It's okay, no one wants to hurt you." I looked down at the papers and read that the boy had paranoid schizophrenia. I looked down at him, now scratching his arms like crazy, and realized I'd handed a lethal weapon to someone who saw me as a target, and the parents I tried to stop were the only reason he didn't kill me. The vet told me my dog was going blind and there was nothing I could do. His favorite thing in the world was playing catch in our backyard, but within 2 weeks he couldn't even stand. He'd sit in the same corner all day shaking because the darkness made him too scared to move. So I lined the center of my floor with sticky tape. The first day I placed him on it and slowly dragged him along. He whimpered the whole way, but over time he learned that the tape meant safety. I started bolting different wooden shapes to the floor around the house, and soon he was using the shapes and the tape to navigate freely. But there was still something missing. I looked at my backyard and figured there had to be a way to play catch. I bought scent markers and placed them at different sections of the yard. I brought him out, and by now he was brave enough to navigate uncertainty. We spent 3 weeks smelling every inch 1,000 times over. Then one day, I grabbed his favorite ball. I sprayed it with a scent marker, let him smell it, and threw it. He took off running. It took him a moment, but he found it. He brought it back with the biggest grin and dropped it at my feet, turning around and signaling to throw again. Every time it rained, my dad pulled over and sat in silence for exactly 5 minutes. Didn't matter where we were or how late we'd be. Rain hit the windshield and he'd pull to the shoulder, put the car in park, and just sit there with his hands on the wheel. My sister and I would groan from the back seat. "Safety first, schedule second," he'd say without turning around. Mom would nod like stopping on a highway in the middle of a downpour was the most normal thing in the world. When my friends asked where I was, I'd text back, "Dad's doing his rain thing again." The day I got my own car, I swore I'd never stop for rain. After he passed, I was helping my mom clean out his garage and found a small wooden box on the top shelf behind his old uniforms. Inside was a purple heart and a folded letter in his handwriting. The first line said, "If you're reading this, I didn't make it home." Turns out his convoy was caught in a rainstorm in Afghanistan. 3 vehicles in a line. My dad stopped for 5 minutes to check something suspicious on the road. The vehicle in front kept going. It hit a landmine half a mile ahead, and everyone inside was killed. My dad watched the smoke rise through the rain on his windshield. If it weren't for those 5 minutes, he wouldn't have come home. The same 5 minutes my sister and I groaned through every time the sky opened up. Every time he stopped, he was honoring his fallen friends. It was the only promise he could keep for those who didn't make it back to their families. I put the letter back in the box, walked out to my car, and just sat there. Now when it rains, I pull over. "I'm sorry, Dad." I was cleaning my daughter's room when her diary fell open on the floor. I went to close it until I saw the first page. It was titled The Plan, and on the left, there was a razor taped to the page. Below was a calendar with June 23rd circled in red. Inside, I read the words, "Mom's death anniversary. Dad, if you're reading this, it's already too late. I'm sorry. I love you." My hands started shaking as I jumped to the worst conclusion. Because June 23rd was today's date, and my daughter wasn't home. So I immediately looked at Find My iPhone and saw her location moving along the edge of the Brooklyn Bridge. I sprinted to my car and drove 40 miles over the speed limit, running multiple red lights because I couldn't let her die at 16. My mind was racing with all the signs I missed. She'd sold almost all her clothes and every expensive thing she owned, and for some reason I believed her when she told me it was for concert tickets. She'd barely been taking care of herself, going months without cutting her hair. So when I finally got close to the bridge, I pulled over and sprinted out into running traffic to find her. When I finally saw her, she was standing there, looking out to the water. I frantically picked her up and ran to my car without a second thought, and when we were finally together, she looked horrified. "Dad, what are you doing here? Why are you so panicked?" I took out her diary. "I found this while cleaning your room. I thought you were dead." Her hand went over her mouth. "Dad, no. Oh my gosh. No, that's That's not what that meant. I still didn't know what was going on until she took off her hat. She was bald. Juliana, what is going on? Since it's Mom's 1-year anniversary since she died from leukemia, I wanted to save money and donate my hair in honor of her. I was on the bridge to scatter her ashes. She pointed at the page. That razor blade is the one that Mom used to shave her hair for the last time. I kept it. I completely broke down crying because I spent the whole drive thinking I'd failed her. But she'd already become the woman her mother raised her to be. My son buried his face into my uniform, sobbing, "You're alive. You're alive. Mommy said you died." I came home from my deployment, and my 6-year-old hit me at the knees so hard I almost fell over. I looked up at my wife. She backed away from me. "You weren't supposed to be here yet." I carried my son toward her, and she grabbed my arm on the stairs. "Please just let me explain." I kept walking. His bedroom door was open. His walls were covered in drawings of a soldier with angel wings. Every single one said, "I miss you, Daddy." I put him in his bed, and he grabbed my sleeve. "Don't leave again." I told him I wasn't going anywhere. I walked down the hall. Our bedroom door was cracked, and there was a man in his boxers sitting on the edge of my bed. He saw me in uniform, and his whole body locked up. He looked at my wife, then at me. "She told me you were dead. I went to your funeral." He stood up shaking. "I moved in here because she said your son needed a father figure." He looked back at her. "Was any of it real?" She stood in the doorway crying and didn't say a word. He put on his clothes, grabbed his bag, and walked to the front door. He stopped and looked at me. "I'm sorry about all of this." I told him he didn't owe me an apology. He nodded and walked out. I looked at my wife. "You need to go too." She opened her mouth. Now, she grabbed her keys and left. My son was standing at the top of the stairs in his pajamas, holding one of his angel drawings. I picked him up and he whispered, "I never believed her. I kept drawing you so I wouldn't forget your face." A woman in Target told me to take off my hoodie and give it to her son. I was in the checkout line wearing my Minecraft hoodie when a kid ran over and said, "Mom, that's Minecraft, I want it." She walked over, looked me up and down, and said, "Give it to my son." I told her no, and that my little brother gave it to me before he passed away. She didn't even blink. "I don't care. You're a grown man wearing a kid's video game. Give it to my son. He'd actually appreciate it." I almost laughed. "I'm not giving you my hoodie." She didn't move. "Just hand it over, and I'll pay you $10 for it." "I just told you my brother gave me this before he died. It's not for sale." She rolled her eyes. $20, final offer. I said no, and tried to step around her, but she grabbed the bottom of my hoodie and pulled. I yanked it back and held it against my chest. "Don't touch me." Everyone in line went quiet. She turned around and screamed for the manager. "This man has been bothering my son since we got in line. He keeps showing off his shirt trying to get my kid's attention. I want him removed." Her son was standing right there looking confused. The manager walked over, and before I could say a word, she pointed at me. "He's harassing my child. Check the cameras if you don't believe me." So he did. The
Walmart Express Delivery comes in as fast as an hour. So you can turn your girlfriend's hangry puppy into your biggest fan.
That was fast. Who knew?
Food. That's how I make friends too.
manager came back with a security guard and walked right past me and stopped in front of her. "Ma'am, the camera shows you approaching this customer, grabbing his clothing, and causing a disturbance. He never touched or spoke to your child." She didn't say anything. "We're going to need you to leave the store." She started yelling that the footage was wrong and that I started it, but the security guard was already walking her toward the door. She tripped over the curb on the way out and ate concrete. Her son looked down at her and said, "Mom, I didn't ask you to do all that." The cashier rang up my groceries, looked at my hoodie, and said, "Cool shirt, by the way." I looked down at the little creeper face on the sleeve, and for a second, I could hear my brother laughing at the whole thing. "Thanks," I said. "It's my favorite." My mom burst out crying because my little brother Andrew had been in bed for weeks. He had brain cancer, and my dad said, "Only a miracle can save him now." We all cried together, but when my little sister Tess overheard this, she got an idea. She broke open her secret piggy bank and snuck out the back door. She walked to the pharmacy, and when she walked in, she shouted, "Hey, I need help!" The pharmacist was confused, but walked over and asked, "What do you need help with?" "My brother's really sick. Daddy says he needs a miracle." "How much do miracles cost?" The pharmacist was confused. He laughed and said, "I'm sorry, but we don't sell miracles here." Tess was frustrated and started to cry, but someone tapped her shoulder. A man standing behind her asked, "Hey there, what kind of miracle does your brother need?" Tess looked up at him. "Well, Daddy says he needs a brain operation, but they can't pay for it. I was gonna use my own money to help," but she sighed, knowing she couldn't get one. "Well, how much money do you have?" Tess held up her piggy bank and pulled out a few coins coins from her pocket. She counted $1.11. She was about to cry, knowing it wasn't enough. But then, the man smiled and said, "Actually, you're in luck, because that's exactly how much miracles cost." She had no idea, but the man was a neurosurgeon and did the operation for free. My mom said, "That surgery was a miracle. I wonder how much it would have cost us." Tess smiled, because she knew exactly how much a miracle cost. Someone wrote "Hi" on the fogged-up mirror in the boys' showers, and the next morning, our principal bolted shower timers into every stall. Then he got on the intercom and announced, "Due to vandalism in the locker room, boys now have 5 minutes to shower." We hated it immediately, and a guy proved why when he walked into biology with shampoo still in his hair yelling, "5 minutes isn't enough." After a week of stepping out half-soaked, one kid said, "If we can't shower properly, why shower at all?" And that's how we all stopped showering. By Friday, a teacher opened her windows in February claiming, "Fresh air helps concentration," but she was breathing through her mouth. By week 2, guys were dousing themselves in Axe body spray, but mixed with the body odor created a toxic cloud that made your eyes water. The cafeteria workers started wearing those painter's masks. My mom started making me walk home from school. When parents called to complain, the principal sent out an email about natural consequences for vandalism. Everything exploded when we ran the mile and 300 sweaty boys crammed back into a building with no AC. The smell made a teacher projectile vomit into the trash can, which made a girl puke on the floor. Within 10 minutes, the floor was covered in puke. That afternoon, the principal got on the intercom and announced, "Showers are now extended to 30 minutes. Someone wrote another "Hi," and nobody said a word. My vegan daughter told me if I didn't stop cooking bacon, she was moving out. I made extra the next morning just to see if she was serious. She was 16. She wasn't going anywhere, and neither was my bacon. The first week, she'd come downstairs every morning, stand in the kitchen with her arms crossed, and watch me cook. I'd slide a plate of bacon across the counter and tell her it was still warm if she changed her mind. She'd push it back and go, "Do you even care that an animal died for that?" I told her it died delicious and kept eating. Second week, she switched tactics and came down with her phone out recording me, telling me she was posting it online to show everyone what an animal abuser her father was. I looked directly into the camera, took a bite of bacon, and winked. She called me a fascist and stomped upstairs. Third week, she came downstairs with a poster board covered in pictures of baby pigs with "Bacon equals murder" written in huge red letters, and stood next to the stove holding it while I cooked. When I didn't react, she started making squealing noises that the neighbors could probably hear through the walls. I told her to knock it off, or she was grounded, and she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Ground me then. At least pigs in factory farms get better treatment than I do in this house." I bit my tongue so hard, trying not to laugh. The next morning, every package of bacon in the fridge was gone because she'd thrown it all in the garbage disposal. I drove to the store before work, bought twice as much, and that night I cooked an entire pound until the whole house smelled like bacon for hours. She went and sat in the backyard to get away from the smell, and I thought I'd won. But the next week, she bought her own pack of vegan bacon and started cooking it right next to mine every morning without saying a word. Saturday morning, I came downstairs early to start cooking, and the kitchen light was already on. My daughter was standing at the stove in her pajamas with 3 strips of real bacon in the pan. She didn't even turn around. The fake stuff wasn't even close. I sat down at the table and didn't say a thing. Some battles you don't need to win out loud. "You're late." I looked up, and 5 kids in matching black hoodies were staring at me. One of them slid me a burrito, and they all took a bite at the exact same time. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. The kid at the end of the table glanced at the cafeteria doors. A teacher walked in, and every phone at the table switched to a calculator app at the same time. The teacher passed. Phones flipped back. The kid across from me leaned over. "Good reflexes. You're in." I'd been at this school for 20 minutes. I didn't even know what I was in. By Wednesday, a sticky note showed up inside my textbook. Operation Thursday, Hallway B during 3rd period, bring gum. I bought a whole pack and showed up not knowing what I was walking into. They handed me a stack of papers and pointed me toward the door. "You're on lookout, and if anyone comes down that hallway, you whistle and we're gone." My heart was pounding like I was robbing a bank. I stood at the end of the hallway while they went desk to desk in room 203, sticking papers under every seat with the gum. Friday, the leader pulled me into a stairwell and handed me a black hoodie. "You didn't run, and you didn't ask questions, so welcome to the shadows." The following Monday, he told me to meet at the library after school. I walked in, expecting some kind of underground headquarters, and found 6 kids in black hoodies, sitting around a table covered in flashcards, open textbooks, and color-coded notes. One of them was walking a freshman through fractions on a whiteboard. I just stood there. The leader looked up and smiled. "Those papers we stuck under the desks were study guides for kids who can't afford tutoring. What did you think we were doing?" I looked at the calculator app still open on their phones, the synchronized snack break happening in the corner, the black hoodies hunched over homework. All of it was the most dramatic study group in the history of high school. Next semester, a new kid sat at our table looking terrified. I slid him a burrito without looking up. "You're late." When my cousin got rejected from state, I leaned back in my chair and said, "Maybe community college is more your speed." Jake went red and left the room without a word. Everyone who was comforting him just just looked up at me in disbelief. My mom pulled a tiny notebook out of her purse and slid it across the table. Since you have so much to say, for the next 48 hours you can write it down, but you're not allowed to speak. Any dumb thing you have to say goes in here because I don't want to hear it. I wrote, "This is stupid," in big letters and held it up. She looked at what I'd written and smiled. Clock starts now. By the time I got to school the next morning, I'd already filled 10 pages with everything I wanted to say and couldn't. A kid dumped chocolate milk on my shoes in the cafeteria, and I sat there filling another page while he walked off laughing with his friends. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was write faster and harder until the pen almost tore through the paper. At lunch, my friend started telling a story about her weekend, and I reached for the notebook to write my version because I had a better one. But then I stopped. She was smiling. The whole table was leaning in. She kept going, and everyone laughed at the punchline. And I realized she'd never gotten to finish a story when I was around because I always jumped in with mine. That one sat with me. By Tuesday, I stopped writing what I wanted to say and started writing what I was seeing. Jake's shoulders dropped every time someone mentioned college, and I'd never noticed because I was always the one talking over it. My dad rubbed his eyes when people argued at dinner, and I'd never seen it because I was usually the one arguing. I'd been cutting people off mid-sentence my whole life, and the only reason I finally saw it was because for the first time my mouth was shut. Every page in that notebook was someone I'd been too loud to see. Wednesday night, my parents sat me down and handed me the notebook. The 48 hours were over, and I could talk again. But for the first time in my life, I didn't know what to say. I flipped through pages of things I'd wanted to scream, picked up the phone, and called Jake. The first thing I ever wrote in that notebook was, "This is stupid." The first thing I said out loud was, "I'm sorry." You know, every year he looks more and more like the mailman. My uncle said it before I even sat down, and the whole table laughed. My brother Ryan pulled out the chair next to Dad. Same jawline, same green eyes, and I took my usual spot at the end. "Are you sure you weren't switched at birth?" Ryan said, sliding me a dinner roll. My parents laughed like it was the first time they'd heard it. My dad wiped his eyes. The boy got into a better school than Ryan, and I told him he must have inherited brains from whoever his real father is. The table cracked up. Ryan pointed at me with his fork. "Face it, bro, you're the mailman's kid, but tonight we settle it for good." He stood up and pulled a box out from under his chair. He handed out DNA test kits and grinned at me. "Can't wait to finally prove which mailman you belong to." My mom went quiet. "I don't think we need to waste money on that." My dad laughed. "Hand them out." We swabbed our cheeks between bites of ham. 6 weeks later, we were back at the same table for Sunday dinner. When the results hit our phones, Ryan counted down from 3. He opened his and stopped scrolling. "This has to be a mistake." Ryan showed up as a half-sibling. Every match on Dad's side connected to me, not him. My dad turned to my mom. "Who is Ryan's father?" She started crying. "Leonard." My dad stood up so fast his chair hit the wall. "The mailman? You actually slept with the mailman?" 23 years of jokes, and every single one of them was true, just aimed at the wrong kid. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. My mom grabbed my arm. "We need to talk about this as a family." That's funny because I've never really been part of this family until about 5 minutes ago. I walked out the front door, sat in my car, and for the first time in 23 years, I was the one laughing. Right as I sat down in my seat, I felt a sharp thud in my back. I tried to ignore it, but it happened again. Boom, boom. I turned around and saw a 12-year-old kid kicking the back of my seat. He looked at me and kicked it again. I turned to his mom. "Hey, can you get your kid to stop that?" She just looked at him, patted him on the head, and kept scrolling on her phone. I sat back down, but again, bang, bang, bang. I felt my fists clench. I stood up again and said, "Hey, get your kid under control." She didn't even look. She had noise-canceling headphones. I was about to lose it. The flight attendant saw, "Is there a problem here?" The kid kicked my seat again, and she said, "Ma'am, can you get your child to stop?" She nodded yes, but the second she walked away, he started kicking again. I yelled, "Stop!" but he just stuck his tongue out and yelled, "Loser." His mom laughed and said, "He just won his soccer championship. Let him have some fun, you lowlife. Now sit back down like the peasant you are." She put her headphones back on, and I knew I couldn't hold back. I walked out to the row behind them and sat down in the empty seat behind the kid. Then I raised my legs and started kicking the kid's seat as hard as I could. He instantly started screaming, and his mom stood up. "Hey, stop that!" I kept kicking, harder. He started crying, and his mom's face was turning red. She screamed for a flight attendant, and she ran back over. "He's harassing us!" I kept kicking, and the flight attendant was trying not to laugh. His mom was crying now too. Then, I stood up and went back to my seat, and for the rest of the flight, it was peaceful bliss. I grabbed the last toy soldier for my son, and a security guard was in my face. I was gonna get that for my kid. Get something else. The nerve of this guy. Sorry, my son mowed lawns for a month to save up for this. He turned cold. Entitled Beach. Excuse me? You're the type that cries like a little baby when he doesn't get his way. I thought to myself, I'm a Marine. You could say a lot of things about me. A crybaby isn't one of them. I thought about responding, then decided against it, and walked away. That's what I figured. Any sign of conflict, and you fold like the little beach I thought you were. I hesitated for a second, then kept walking. At checkout, I felt him watching me. Sure enough, he pushed through the line, badge out, hand on his taser. Sir, come with me, right now. Every customer stared at me like I'd already been convicted. Excuse me? I watched you steal something. Don't make this difficult. Fine, get your manager. The rent-a-cop pulled me into the tiny back office, a metaphor for his tiny dick. He told his idiot manager that he watched me steal something and put it back when I saw him coming. A blatant lie. The manager bought every word and informed me I was going on a watch list and banned from the store. The rent-a-dork got right in my face and smiled like he'd won a trophy. I was about to make a decision I couldn't take back when Sally from Home Goods walked in. Sir, I actually saw and heard the whole exchange between these two, and the customer is telling the truth. He never tried to steal anything. The rent-a-dweeb turned white. The manager apologized and gave me 50% off my entire purchase. I loaded the cart with everything my son could want with the last toy soldier on top. On the way out, I watched the rent-a-turd get fired. A week later, I saw him on the local news, caught stealing the exact same toy soldier from another store. Some people never learn. My parents walked into my room mid-game and unplugged my console. My dad held up my report card with a D in algebra and said, "No more games until your grades come up." The next day, I walked into the kitchen and told him my friend started a study group at his house. My dad dropped me off that first night and watched me walk in with my backpack. He saw textbooks on the table and drove away smiling. My friend's mom sat us down and made us do homework for the first hour. The second that hour was up, my friend turned on Fortnite and we gamed for the rest of the night. When my dad picked me up, he asked how it went. I told him we studied the whole time. He squeezed my shoulder and said, "That's my boy." Every night after that, he'd pull up during the first hour and peek through the window. Textbooks out, homework spread across the table. By the time we switched to Fortnite, he was long gone. One night, my friend's mom came outside and told him, "Your son's been making my boy actually do his homework. He never used to." After that, my dad stopped getting out of the car. He'd just honk, and I'd come out. One night, I looked out the window, and my dad was walking up the driveway carrying a box of pizza. He was coming inside to thank my friend's parents. I jumped off the couch. I slapped my friend's arm, and he yelled, "Grab the math books." We threw the controllers under the couch cushions and had textbooks open by the time the front door opened. My dad walked in with the pizza grinning. He looked at the table covered in math books and started beaming. He pulled out his phone and took a photo of me pointing at equations in a calculus textbook. I still had a D in algebra. I just nodded and kept pointing like I knew what I was talking about while our Fortnite characters were getting eliminated in the background. My dad sent the photo to my mom, and she called me that night crying about how proud she was. He went back to honking from the driveway. To them, I was a math tutor, but really, I was top 10 in Fortnite. My 12-year-old sister and I were home alone upstairs when we heard the front door burst open. A voice I didn't recognize yelled, "Fire, fire, get out!" But I didn't smell fire, and anything that could have caused one was turned off. I realized whoever this was trying to lure us out. I crept.
Chewy is the answer to fart questions.
Should I be concerned about this?
His gas? Let's ask LiveChat. And heart questions.
She's not overdue for her horror meds, is she?
Nope, next batch arrives tomorrow. For life with pets, the answer is Chewy.
Come on.
How you doing, man?
Towards the door and locked it, but when I looked over at my sister, she was shaking like she knew something I didn't. Suddenly, I heard footsteps slowly coming up the stairs. The handle started rattling like crazy, and the voice again yelled, "This is the fire department. Please come out." I looked out the window and didn't see a fire truck. I brought me and my sister to the ledge intending to climb out, but a white van I didn't recognize sat parked across the street. A man in the driver's seat was looking directly at me, almost like he was daring me to get out. My heart was racing, and my sister kept whispering for me to do something. The door handle rattling had now also stopped, which was somehow scarier. I pulled out my phone and called our dad. I told him everything and prayed he'd come quickly. That's when my sister grabbed my hand. She whispered she knows the person outside our door. It's the kid from school who was harassing her. I hugged her and grabbed a remote nearby, promising I'd protect her if he comes in. But then I smelled something, actual smoke coming from downstairs. I realized that's why the rattling had stopped. The kid had gone down and lit a real fire. My hands shook, but I didn't even have time to react before a hard kick rattled our door. Then another kick and another. My sister was sobbing, and I knew I had to stay calm for her. I told her, let's try the window again. We crept over, and the white van was now empty. This was our chance. I helped my sister onto the ledge, but when she looked down to start climbing, she went pale. The man from the van was right there, smiling at her. He grabbed the drain pipe on the wall and began climbing up. My sister jumped back in, and we just hugged, hearing our door splinter and accepting this was the end. We were going to die. But then I heard the squeal of tires. Our dad's car was in the driveway. He got out and sprinted, pulling the man off the drain pipe and hitting him over the head. Then he ran inside, not caring that the fire had spread so much it swallowed him immediately. Our door was barely holding on. The kid kicked one more time, and the hinges gave out. The door swung open. He had a knife raised above his head, and he lunged right at my sister like I wasn't even there. My heart dropped. My body reacted before my brain, and I jumped in front of my sister, preparing to get stabbed to save her life. The knife was inches away from my chest, when out of nowhere the kid stopped. His face fell, and he dropped to the floor completely. Blood started pooling from his back. I looked into the hallway, and saw my dad with his gun raised, and the smoke from the fire downstairs rising around him. All my friends ran up to me saying they just saw someone flirting with my girlfriend. I knew they weren't lying, and when I heard that, I immediately felt the rage boiling inside me. They told me he was in the library, and when I walked in, I saw him. He was scrawny, and I knew I'd kill him. I instantly walked up, grabbing his shirt, saying, "You were talking to my girl? I'll whoop your ass in front of everybody." And as soon as I said that, everyone around me heard. They immediately started chanting, "Fight, fight, fight," and a circle started to form around us. He was terrified, shaking because he was only 5'5" and skinny, but everyone was chanting. He had no choice and dropped his books. He raised his shaking fist to fight me, but just then, I noticed something. I saw his chemistry textbook on the ground and realized it was the same one as my girlfriend's, and that's when it hit me. He was in a group project with her and wasn't actually flirting with her at all. I looked around, but everyone was already chanting. If I stopped the fight, I'd lose all my friends. They were all yelling at me to beat him up, so I just threw some super light punches to get it over with. I didn't mean to hurt him, but I accidentally hit him with one, and he immediately fell to the ground. Everyone went crazy, but I felt horrible. I knew this kid didn't deserve this at all, and looked like he was on the verge of tears. That's when I leaned down and whispered, "Get up, man. I'll let you win." He was confused, but got up. He started throwing a few extra weak punches, and I knew the crowd was suspicious. I tried to make it look real and dodge one, but just as I did, this kid threw an absolutely perfect left hook like he was Mike Tyson, and I accidentally leaned right into it. He hit me so hard I flew backwards, completely breaking my jaw. I hit the ground hard and heard everyone scream. Nobody could believe it, and even though I was rushed to the hospital, he thanked me for letting him win the fight. We've been best friends ever since. I was sitting in class when my friend passed me a note that said, "I stole $2,500 from the teacher. Help me hide it." I froze, because our teacher was currently emptying everyone's bags searching for the money. I told Kian no, but he begged because the money was for his little brother's life-saving surgery. Just as I was about to reply, the teacher reached our desk. She flipped his bag and an envelope slid out. She tore it open and $2,500 all fell out. The school security guard in the room started moving towards Kian, but as he was about to grab him, Kian pointed at me. He stole it and gave it to me when he realized he was caught. I tried to defend myself, but Kian kept going. "Check his locker. You'll find proof he stole it there." I double-taked. My only thought was what proof? I had nothing but books there. Security walked us all down the hall, and Kian smiled the whole way. I had no idea why, until I remembered seeing him earlier today lingering around my locker. I put in my code, and a velvet box I'd never seen was sitting on top of my books. The teacher opened the box and started crying. Her dead mother's ring that went missing a month ago. I was in shock. I told them Kian was framing me, but he innocently raised his hands. "Why would I frame you? We're friends." Why was he doing this? At the principal's office, cops showed up talking about a felony and juvie. I tried to argue, but the security footage was too blurry to prove anything. The cops took their handcuffs out to arrest me, and I started accepting I was about to go to jail. That's when the door burst open. Kian's little brother walked in, holding papers in one hand and a box in the other. "Kian told you I was having surgery, didn't he?" He dropped the medical documents proving he was perfectly healthy. Then he put the box down, full of AirPods, cash, and watches. "This is everything Kian stole from everyone this year." Kian lunged for it, but the cops grabbed him. His brother looked at me. "I'm not letting someone go to jail for his sick obsession." I won a goldfish at a carnival and decided it would become my best friend. But when I brought it home, my dad scoffed. "I'm not keeping this. It'll die in 3 days anyway." He picked up the bowl to throw it out, but I begged him I'd take care of it. He agreed, but said, "If I see you forgetting about it, I'm throwing it away." I immediately started researching, buying the best food, and changing its water. My dad watched carefully, asking if I was finally over it. But 1 month in, the goldfish was still alive. I bragged to him, but he just said, "It's gonna die soon anyway. Just throw it out already." But I was determined to prove him wrong. I took free marine classes online and taught myself to clean tanks properly. When the goldfish hit its 1-year birthday, I threw it a party. "You said 3 days, Dad. I've kept it alive for a full year." He smiled and walked over to the tank, looking into it and grinning. I was so proud of myself. I'd actually done what he said I couldn't. But one day, I noticed my goldfish food bag was empty. I walked to the nearest pet store like always and saw my dad. He was buying a goldfish identical to mine. My heart stopped and I secretly followed him home. I watched from the doorway as he scooped my goldfish out of my bowl. I looked closer and realized it was dead. My dad looked around, then put the identical goldfish he'd just bought into my bowl and walked away. I realized I'd never kept my goldfish alive. My dad just made me believe I did, because sometimes we all need to believe we can do anything we put our mind to. Our class clown once released 3 chickens into the hallways numbered 1, 2, and 3. The staff spent the entire day looking for chicken number 3. That was Saul. Every prank he pulled was genius, but never crossed a line. Weeks before graduation, he started disappearing during lunch and we'd catch him near the auditorium, but nobody thought much of it. Graduation day, our principal stepped to the podium and tapped the microphone. The entire electrical system went dark. Before anyone could move, the projection screen behind the stage lit up on its own. The first clip was our principal in his office pocketing cash from the Kids with Cancer Fund. The room went silent. The next clip was our lunch lady walking out of the janitor's closet, wiping her mouth, and Coach Brenner following right behind her, zipping up his pants. Parents started grabbing their kids' shoulders. Then Ms. Wilson in the hallway doing an impression of a student with Down syndrome, contorting her face and laughing while 2 other teachers watched. That student was sitting in the 3rd row with his family. His mom grabbed his hand. The superintendent sprinted to the booth, but Saul had locked himself inside. Parents pulled out their phones and started recording the recording. Teachers on stage couldn't move. Someone finally killed power to the whole building, but by the time the lights came back on, half the audience had already sent the clips to the school board. Graduation was canceled. 3 teachers resigned. The principal was placed on leave. Saul got 2 years probation that destroyed every college plan he had. We never got to walk the stage. Saul, if you're watching this, you ruined our graduation and got yourself arrested, you beautiful idiot. It was worth it. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m., but when I answered, I heard my wife say, "Please come pick me up. My car won't start, and some guy just tried to rob me." She was terrified, and I immediately said, "Coming, babe." I ran out the door, driving to the hospital she worked at. I pulled into the parking lot, but I didn't see her car anywhere. I reached for my phone, but when I felt my pocket, it wasn't there. I forgot it on the bed. The only other person in the parking lot was a young girl in her car, and I started to get worried. Oh my God, did she get kidnapped? I ran over to the girl. "Excuse me, did you see my wife? She said she was in danger." The girl looked scared. "Oh my God, someone just tried to rob me too. My boyfriend's supposed to be here any minute." I started freaking out. I ran into the hospital and saw her co-workers. "My wife just got kidnapped out there. Please, we have to call the police." They just looked at me weird. "What are you doing? Call them." Your wife isn't working tonight. Are you sure it was her?" I stood there confused. I used their phone to call her, and when she picked up, she was screaming, "I knew you were cheating on me." I was so confused, but then it hit me. I went back outside to the girl. I asked to see her phone, and when I checked, I saw she accidentally dialed my number. We were both in shock, and I rushed home. My wife was crying, and I begged her to believe me. She heard me say, "Coming, babe," before I left, and was beside me the whole time. She started calling divorce lawyers, threatening to leave me, but then suddenly came home smiling, saying sorry for not believing me. Because while she was at work, someone said, "Did you hear about that girl who accidentally called someone's husband to pick her up, and that idiot actually showed up?" I was driving home when I saw a bright light on the road, but right when I looked closer, I saw they were headlights. I screamed, but the Lexus smashed into me, and I watched in slow motion as glass went everywhere. My car was destroyed, but when I could finally see again, I saw the girl from the other car climb out of the wreck. She looked perfectly fine, and I forced the words out, "Please, please get help." But she just put her hands over her mouth and ran away. I could barely stay conscious, but I felt someone grab me. A cop dragged me out. "You crashed into her? Are you serious? Do you know what you just did?" I was barely breathing, covered in blood, glass stuck in my arms, and this cop didn't even care my neck was broken. More sirens came and ambulances showed up, but he just kept screaming. They put a syringe into my arm, and everything went black. But when I woke up in a hospital bed, I couldn't move my arm. I looked over at it and saw I was literally handcuffed to the hospital bed. "Nurse, why am I handcuffed?" But she said, "Sorry, I can't discuss with a criminal." What? Criminal? But as she turned and walked out, the same cop burst through. "Rise and shine, Mr. DUI. How many drugs were you on?" "None. I didn't take anything." Then more cops started coming into the room. "I don't care that your neck is broken. You deserve it." They were all staring at me. Then I saw someone else. It was the girl. She saw me laying in that hospital bed, handcuff around my wrist, and she gasped, holding back tears. They turned turned and saw her, and the cop panicked. "Gracie, what are you doing here?" She was crying. "Please, Uncle Mark. I feel so bad for him. I have to tell them what really happened." All of the cops looked confused. He was trying to push her out. "No, Uncle Mark. I have to tell them the truth. Get out of here. He's already guilty." But just as he pushed her out of the room, one of the taller cops walked up to him. "Wait, you never told us your niece was in the other car." He started to look nervous. "Well, no, but that doesn't matter. He was still on drugs, right?" He stepped forward. "I don't know. Was he? Did anyone actually confirm that?" Turns out she was texting and driving, ran straight into me, and her uncle blamed me for the whole thing. And even though the pain was excruciating, I still raised my middle finger as they took him out. My brother kept stealing my bike, so I let him take it one last time. On my brother's birthday weekend, he snuck out of the house and cycled to meet up with the cigarette smokers of our school. He didn't even smoke. He just
Our 2-week intro offer has seen a 60% conversion rate into a membership.
stood in the middle so he could smell like them. Then he rode my bike home and left it on its side. The next morning, the handlebars were wobbly. He saw me and laughed. "Why did you do this again?" "I just fixed this. I had no option. Dad grounded me from driving my car. Plus, everyone said it made me look cool, so it was worth it." That afternoon, I spent all my birthday money on a thick bike lock. But the next morning, I woke up to the pieces of the lock on my pillow with a note. "Nice try, loser." I smiled because enough was enough. I waited until Friday night to sneak out to the front garden with a wrench. I loosened the handlebars just enough to come off when he least expected it, and I left the bike perfectly angled, perfectly exposed and polished. The next night he snuck out to go to a party, and his crush was waiting in the driveway. He smirked. "Check me out, check me out." A minute later, he was speeding down the road with one hand on the handlebar. But as he went to make a sharp turn, the handlebars popped right off in his hands. He looked straight at her as his entire body hit the ground. I laughed as he limped through the front door smelling like gravel instead of cigarettes. Was it worth it? He shook his head. Dad grounded him for 6 months. My mom's hospice called. "Your mom is declining fast and has maybe 30 minutes left to live. Get here soon." I laced up my shoes, mentally preparing myself to run for 20 minutes because I couldn't afford a cab. But Miss Vexler stepped in front of the door. "Phones down during state exams or automatic fail. My mom is dying right now. I need to leave." She snatched my phone and locked it in her desk drawer. "Your mom's been dying of cancer for months. Convenient timing for test day. 28 minutes left." My best friend shot up. "Just let him go, please. His mom is the kindest woman I've ever met." Miss Vexler planted herself in front of the door like a human barricade. Anyone who helps him leave gets reported for academic dishonesty. Through the desk holes, I could see my phone lighting up with texts. "Please hurry. Not much time left. 24 minutes left." That's when the principal's voice crackled over the intercom. "Please send Archie Smith to the office for emergency family pickup." I was about to leave, but Miss Vexler walked to the intercom and pressed the button. "Hospice said they made a mistake. The student is now taking a state exam." She turned back to me. "Just because you tricked the principal doesn't mean you tricked me." She yanked the cord out of the wall. I started hyperventilating and knew I was having a panic attack. 20 minutes left. Suddenly, the foster kid who never speaks stood up. His mom's the only adult who remembered my birthday. Her cake was the first birthday cake I ever had. Please let him say goodbye to her. "Sit down or you're expelled." You know what I think? She smiled. "I bet she's not even sick." Her fingers flew across the keypad by the door. "Probably just wants attention like you always do." Beep. Doors locked. Emergency shelter mode activated. 16 minutes left. Maya, the special needs student, was crying now. When everyone laughed at my stutter, his mom taught me breathing exercises every day for free. Well, don't blame me. Maybe if Archie spent less time visiting her and more time studying, he wouldn't need to fake emergencies. 12 minutes left. I was on my knees now, gasping. "Please, she's dying." Miss Vexler turned on me with pure venom. "Well, this is the same mother who got me written up last month. If your mom really is dying, then consider it karma. You're welcome." That's when Ashley, perfect straight A Ashley, who'd never gotten a detention in her life, climbed on her desk. "I have something to confess." Miss Vexler whipped around. "Ashley, what are you? I cheated on every test. I stole the answer keys. I hacked your computer." "What? Check your computer. It's all there." I realized Ashley was distracting Miss Vexler so I could escape the classroom and see my mom. So I quickly grabbed a chair, turned toward the window, and swung as hard as I could. 6 minutes left. I ran like I'd never run before and sprinted to room 119. When I crashed through the door, completely out of breath with blood dripping from my hands, her eyes fluttered open. "Mom, I love you so much. I'm so sorry." She squeezed my hand, gathering every bit of strength she had left. "I love..." Her mouth formed the shape of U, but no sound came. Her hand went slack in mine. The entire class burst through the door 5 minutes later. They'd all run after me, and the room was silent. Miss Vexler had stolen my mother's last words. When we returned to the classroom the next day, the school refused to acknowledge what had happened. But a few years later, when she died in the same hospice, no one in the town visited her, and she died alone. My wife gave me divorce papers and said, "Accept my side piece or we're done." I signed immediately. My wife Crystal texted me, grabbing lunch with Naomi, but Naomi was right next to me, helping me pick out a birthday gift for her. I showed her the text. What the hell? She told me she was staying home to clean the house, nothing about going out. So she lied to me about being with Naomi, and she lied to Naomi about staying home. Whatever my wife was doing right now was something she didn't want even her best friend to know about, and that meant it had to be bad. Crystal walked in frantically at 10 p.m., saying traffic was bad, and she was going straight to bed. But I already knew she was a liar, so I checked her car for the truth. Glove box, just registration. Backseat, nothing. Center console had a watch, another man's watch. I sat there holding it, trying to think of a single good reason it was there, but I landed in the same place every time. Asking her meant giving up the only proof I had, so I put it back. The next morning, Crystal came downstairs in a hoodie, and her hair placed strategically. When she turned to grab a mug, I realized it was to hide the hickey on her neck. I brushed her hair to the side and she lightly flinched. What happened here? Oh, that? I think I tweaked something at the gym. Be more careful. I will, babe. She kissed me while I stood there gripping the edge of the counter. 4 days later, I came I was grabbing a lollipop from the bowl on the bank counter when a man burst through the doors with a gun. "Everybody down!" he screamed, waving his gun at everyone. I panicked and dove behind the teller counter, but my mom was in the lobby, dropping to her knees with the other customers. She called my name, searching for me, but he yelled, "Everyone shut the hell up and let me get my money. Nobody leaves until I do." I pressed myself against the counter, my heart slamming because my mom is all I have, and I had to do something before he hurt her. Police sirens wailed in the distance, and the robber's head snapped toward the window. "Crap! Let's do this quick!" he screamed. He shoved his gun at the teller, who was only 10 feet away from me. The teller threw his hands up, then fumbled the drawer open and stuffed cash into the bag, crying. I stayed frozen behind the counter, my whole body shaking, watching my mom out in the lobby shaking. Then I saw it, a red lockdown button on the wall, the kind that seals the whole bank and could stop him. But when I reached for it, I saw the keypad beside it. It needed a code, and I didn't know it. I was so close to saving her, and I still couldn't do anything. Then the sirens grew louder, and the robber panicked. My mom kept screaming my name, so he stormed over and yanked her up by the arm. "Shut up! You're coming with me!" He pressed the gun to her head and dragged her toward the doors. And I knew if he walked out that door with her, I'd never see her again. The robber was one step from the doors, my mom locked against his chest, her feet dragging. I was guessing codes frantically, but they all were wrong. Then the teller beside me, hands still up, whispered, 4729. My fingers shook as I punched it in, one number at a time, while the robber's hand hit the doorknob. The second he pushed it open, the lockdown slammed every door shut, trapping him inside. He spun around, wild-eyed, searching for who did it, but he never once looked behind the counter. The police swarmed in and tackled him as my mom broke free. I ran to her, the lollipop still in my hand, and buried myself in her arms. My dad turned on the kitchen light at 2 a.m. and caught me raiding the fridge, already surrounded by empty plastic wrappers. He tapped the insulin pen by the sink. "Your sugar levels have been screwed up all week. If you have one more night of binge eating like this, you're going to be back in the hospital." I shut the fridge and held up a hand. "I'm done, Dad, I swear." But behind my back, I had my fingers crossed, because there was a whole rotisserie chicken on the top shelf, and I already knew I'd be back for it. The next night, I waited until the house went quiet and crept down at 1:55 a.m. The chicken was still on the top shelf, wrapped tight in foil. I peeled the foil back, but Dad's head was staring up at me from the plate. "Hello, son!" I screamed and threw the whole thing across the kitchen. When I stumbled backwards, I hit the stove and the oven door dropped open beside me. Dad's legs were folded on the rack inside, still in his slippers. I clamped my hands over my mouth. "It's not real," I told myself. "The sugar's just cooking my brain. I'm hallucinating." I spun around and the fridge was wide open. My real dad was behind the door, and the cold chicken was tucked under his arm. I aggressively shook my head and snapped back to reality. On top of the chicken, there was a photo of his face, and the legs in the oven were cardboard. He knew I'd hallucinate from the sugar levels, and he put them there to trick me and stop me from binge eating at night. He set the chicken on the counter and leaned in until we were eye to eye. "Next time you make me a promise," he said, "keep your hands where I can see them." I eat dinner at 6 now, and there's a photo of Dad's face taped inside the fridge, right where the chicken used to sit, just in case. My dad turned on the kitchen light at 2 a.m. and caught me Drew threw a kid through a plate glass window at a house party. The glass exploded across the front lawn, and the kid landed on his back in the bushes with blood pouring down his face, and Drew was standing over him with his fists still clenched, screaming at him. People were running. Someone was calling 911. I grabbed Drew by the arm and dragged him around the side of the house so hard he stumbled. Someone had already called the cops. I could hear sirens and blue light pulsed through the trees at the end of the block, and as soon as he realized what he had just done, it all hit him at once. Drew grabbed me by both shoulders and shook me so hard my teeth rattled, tears and snot running down his face. If this goes on my record, I lose my scholarship. You don't have anything to lose. I have everything on the line. You owe me this. I shoved him off me, and my heart was pounding with panic. I have a scholarship too, I know, and I'll protect it. I swear. I'll go to coach the second year out, and I'll help you prove it wasn't you. I'll tell them everything. I just need time. He dropped to his knees on the pavement and gripped the front of my jacket with both fists. 1 month. You'll do 1 month, and when you get out, I will fix everything. Your scholarship, your girl, your spot. I swear on my life. Drew had been my best friend since 3rd grade. The sirens were on our street. I grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him up off his knees. I was terrified of what I was about to do, but I said yes. I took the plea. 1 month in juvenile detention. My lawyer told me I was throwing my future away, and I signed the paper anyway. My mom was in the front row, and when the judge read the sentence, she let out a sob so loud the whole courtroom turned, and the guilt hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. Drew was in the back row with his eyes on the floor, and he wouldn't look at me. My girlfriend grabbed both my hands in the hallway. She pressed her forehead against mine. 1 month is nothing. I'll wait. She squeezed my hands so hard her rings dug into my fingers. Write me every day. Every day. She kissed me, and her was so sharp it tasted like metal. Drew was waiting at the bottom of the courthouse steps. He pulled me into a hug and gripped the back of my head. 1 month. I'll be here every single week. You won't even notice you're gone. He grabbed the front of my jacket and shook it gently. Your spot at the table. Your seat in the locker room. I'll keep it all warm. He tapped the team logo over my chest. And the second you're out, I go to coach and we fix this. They put me in a van with blacked out windows, and I was so terrified my teeth were chattering. I slammed my palm against the glass. My mom was on the sidewalk rocking back and forth, and Drew was next to her with his hand on her shoulder. The van turned the corner and they disappeared, and I slammed my palm against the glass one more time, and nobody was there to see it. The facility smelled like bleach and sweat. They took my clothes and my phone and gave me a gray jumpsuit. A kid twice my size looked up from his bunk when they put me in my cell. What are you in for? I couldn't answer because my jaw was locked shut. He laughed. You'll talk eventually. I lay on the mattress and pulled the blanket over my head, and I was so scared I shook until the lights went out. Someone was crying 3 cells down. A guard's boots echoed in the hallway. I kept shaking in the dark and told myself Drew would fix this. Drew promised. The lights came on at 6. Take the blame. I will owe you forever. Drew jumped to his feet. His face went white. I'll keep everything warm. I swear on my life. Pure panic took over Drew's face. He charged the stage. He vaulted over the first row of chairs and knocked a girl's bag off her lap and sprinted up the aisle with his face wild. He tried to jump onto the stage and missed, and scrambled up on his hands and knees and ran toward the tech booth, screaming at the top of his lungs. Turn it off! That's not what happened. I was there, but I didn't. He froze. I was there. Savage triumph flooded through me. The silence was so thick I could hear him breathing into the microphone he'd grabbed off the podium. A girl in the front row whispered, "Oh my God." A teacher stood up. Dead silence. I stepped out of the tech booth and walked to the front of the stage, and my heart was pounding with a grim, ferocious satisfaction, because every lie he'd told was unraveling, and he'd done it to himself. Drew was standing in the aisle with every eye in the room on him, and his own words hanging in the air like smoke. He tried to recover. I didn't mean I wasn't. There's no video of the party, Drew. I jumped off the stage and landed in the aisle 3 feet from him. I never had one. His face crumbled. You just told 400 people you were there. You just told them it wasn't what happened. You just told them you needed a video turned off because it could prove something. I held up my phone. All I had were your texts. The ones where you begged me to take the blame. The ones where you swore you'd protect my scholarship. The ones where you promised you'd fix everything. The screen cycled. His posts. Photos with my friends captioned, "The Crew." Photos with my girlfriend captioned, "My Girl." A post that said, "Sometimes people leave your life and you realize it was for the better." Side by side with, "You're literally saving my life right now." Drew looked around the room like a trapped animal. He's crazy. He went to juvie because he attacked someone. I had to get a restraining order. My teammate stood up in the 5th row. Nah, you told me the same thing, but those texts are from the night it happened, happened, and I remember you calling me crying about it. Another teammate stood. He told me you threatened him with a knife. I believed him. I'm sorry. Half the auditorium was crying. My girlfriend stood up. Our eyes met, and her chin trembled, and she pressed her hand over her mouth, and turned and walked out, and the door closed behind her, and I felt nothing, because she had made her choice a month ago. Coach stepped to the microphone. His face was gray. Drew turned to him. Did you assault that student at the party? Drew's mouth opened and closed. Did this young man serve a month in detention for something you did? Drew looked around the room, and every face was turned toward him, and not one of them was on his side. Did you use his recommendation letters to take his scholarship? Drew grabbed my jacket off the back of his chair and shoved past the entire row, knocking a girl's bag off her lap. He shouldered through the auditorium doors, and they slammed shut, and the sound echoed off every wall. The projector was still running. His words still glowed on the wall behind the empty stage. Coach walked down from the podium. He bent down and picked my jacket up off the floor where Drew had dropped it, and I was shaking with so much emotion, I couldn't name all of it. He folded it over his arm and walked it to me and held it out. I think we need to have a conversation about that scholarship. He turned to the room. The ceremony is postponed, effective immediately. He turned back to me. Come to my office Monday. I took the jacket and my hands were shaking, and I put it on, and it still fit. The whole room stood up. The clapping started in the back row and spread forward and built until it was thundering off the walls. My lab partner was standing. The girl who crossed the hallway was standing. My English teacher was standing with tears still on her face. I pressed my face into the collar of my jacket and cried, because a month ago, every person in this room thought I was a monster, and now they were standing for me. I shoved through the auditorium doors and into the parking lot. My mom was there. She saw the jacket, and the relief on her face broke something open in me. She sprinted across the parking lot and crashed into me and grabbed the lapels and smoothed them down with her hands. I told that boy this was yours. I held her and cried into her shoulder. 1 month and a bluff to get my life back, but I was standing in it again.
You're being scammed by the AI industry. GPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok. They're all preying.
I drove home so excited that I get to surprise my beautiful wife and 5-year-old daughter. I honestly felt like the luckiest guy alive. I came home early from a business trip and had bought a huge bouquet of her favorite red roses and chocolate truffles. I rushed inside, thrilled beyond belief. When I entered, my daughter rushed out of her bedroom and hugged me in tears. "I'm so happy you're back, Daddy. Hey darling, what happened? Why are you crying?" She just shook her head, not wanting to say. "Well, look at what I got you." I pulled a brand new teddy bear out of my bag, and she hugged it tightly. "Where's your mommy?" Her eyes bulged in fear. "She's in her room with her friend." I thought, that's weird. I held her huge bouquet in my hands, entered the hallway, and approached the closed bedroom door and opened it. Surprise! I had to adjust my eyes when I saw my wife sitting in bed next to another man, sharing a cigarette. I was frozen, horrified, and speechless. I locked eyes with her, and they both glanced at each other, not sure what to say. I felt a deep betrayal in my gut that turned into a murderous rage. "With our daughter in the other room? Are you people insane?" My wife stuttered and tried to justify. "You weren't supposed to be home until next week. You should have called and told me." My throat tightened in pain. "As if this is somehow my fault? How could you do this? I thought you were happy." She stared at me as if I was a ghost. I glared at the man she was with and felt a murderous rage boiling inside me. Unfortunately, I knew this dick. "Whitman, you piece of crap. Get the hell out of my house." I walked out, went into my Burke and his 2 security guards chased me, but I was a lot quicker. All that muscle definitely slowed them down. I made it to a side window and hid behind an air conditioner. closet, found a slick black suit, and quickly put it on. I stepped out of the closet and saw my ex-wife staring at me in shock. She instantly recognized me and dropped her champagne glass. My disguise did nothing for me being this close to her. "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" Flashes of everything she'd done put me into a state of murderous rage. "I should ask you that, you traitor." Her eyes bulged because she knew I was speaking the truth about her. There were a few things I really wanted to know. "Did you plan destroying me together?" "Don't be ridiculous. You methodically, strategically lied about me at a live trial, by the way, and committed perjury. And you're calling me ridiculous? Why do you have on my husband's suit, weirdo? Are you really that sick? You're trying to be like him now?" "No, I don't give a shit about his suits. I came here to finish some business, and I need to blend in." "Do you really think Sophie doesn't know the truth about you and your sicko new husband?" "Sophie knows exactly who you really are, because you've been lying to her, poisoning her with so much bullshit, and you're too dumb to know that she's too smart to believe it. My little girl knows exactly who I am based on how much I love her, and I bet that terrifies you." She turned cold. Part of her knew I was right and didn't want to admit it. "Why are you really here and what are you planning?" I grinned, even though I was so pissed. "You'll see." She grew terrified, then darted for the bedroom door. I cut her off, grabbed her by the arm, walked her into the bathroom, shoved her inside, and barricaded the door so she was never getting out. "Let me out of here right now. I will have you killed. Let me out." I checked my dumb suit in the mirror, then walked out. I kicked in all the bedroom doors and didn't see Sophie in her bedroom or any of the guest rooms. I entered the main ballroom area as if I truly belonged there and grabbed a glass of champagne. I had taken my fair share of acting classes and knew how to look important and blend in. I just had to sell it long enough to find Sophie and get out. I passed by a few guests and they stared at me, wondering who I was and how they knew me. On my way to the other side of the house, I ran into a bald man that was loaded with jewelry. I tried to walk past him, but he gripped onto my arm. "Where do I know you from?" I put on a slight British accent. "You don't. Whitman brought me here for reasons that I cannot explain. Excuse me." I walked away, leaving him dumbfounded. Then I saw Burke and both of his security guards. Burke saw Whitman and pulled him aside. He said something in Whitman's ear, and Whitman turned red with rage. He gestured and pointed at Burke to keep searching everywhere, and then Burke stood up on a podium and addressed his guests. "Excuse me, everyone. Excuse me. I am so sorry to interrupt, but it has come to my attention that there's an intruder among us." There were gasps all around. I even tapped the guy next.
Want software to help manage and grow your fitness business? Get MindBody, the
He said something in Whitman's ear, and Whitman turned red with rage. He gestured and pointed. I walked away, leaving him dumbfounded. Then I saw Burke and both of his security guards. Burke saw Whitman and pulled him aside. He said something in Whitman's ear, and Whitman turned red with rage. He gestured and pointed at Burke to keep searching everywhere, and then Burke stood up on a podium and addressed his guests. "Excuse me, everyone. Excuse me. I am so sorry to interrupt, but it has come to my attention that there's an intruder among us." There were gasps all around. I even tapped the guy next to me as if he did something wrong. "I'm only telling everyone because I hold all of you to be the most important people in my life, and you're only here because you were personally invited and loved by me and my wife." "Where is my wife, by the way?" He searched the crowd, and everyone looked everywhere. I pretended to look, then started to sneak away. "If anyone here doesn't recognize someone, please bring it to my attention." The bald man immediately pointed directly at me and yelled, "Intruder, right there!" Two party guests grabbed both of my arms and snarled at me. I kicked one in the nuts, then headbutted the other across the bridge of the nose and took off running across the living room. I slammed into a waiter that was carrying several champagne glasses, and his drinks crashed everywhere. Burke and his two security guys chased me. I shoved my way past a few more guests, sprinted across the entire house, and rushed into a play area where several children were playing. I spotted Sophie, rushed up to her, and she immediately recognized me. "Daddy!" She threw her little arms around my neck, and it took everything in me not to burst into tears right there. "Darling, I need you to listen to me, okay?" She nodded with her sweet little angelic angelic face. I'm here to take you away from these bad people so you can come live with me. But I need you to listen to everything I say, okay? Okay, Daddy. This is going to be a fun, exciting adventure. Great! I took her by the hand and rushed out of a side door. We ran as fast as her little legs would go and reached the shore to see the speedboat. For the first time all night, I thought that I actually had a chance at pulling this off. I smiled to myself. A tear spilled down my cheek as we approached the speedboat. Then my heart almost exploded out of my chest when I saw and heard the loudest explosion of my life. The speedboat burst into flames, and I had no idea how it happened. Sophie and I got sprung back off of our feet and landed in the sand. I was devastated. I got so close. Sophie started crying out of sheer fright. I looked back behind me and saw Burke holding a remote-controlled detonator and grinning from ear to ear. He called out to me. I know it's a little early for fireworks, but I always loved a good show. Before they could reach us, I quickly whispered to Sophie, "Run and hide on the other side of the shore and wait. I swear to you, baby girl, I'll find you." She quickly took off running and was able to escape before Burke and his 2 security guards arrived. I quickly hid my burner phone that had all the photographic evidence underneath the sand and marked it off in my mind where it is, so I would be able to find it. It's about 3 feet away from a wooden post. Burke grabbed me, shoved my face into the sand, and zip-tied my hands behind my back. "Got you, you little bitch." They dragged me behind the house and into a small shed that had power tools all over the wall. They sat me down in a chair, and Burke didn't speak a word. I was trembling in horror, but did my best to cover it. He wrapped his hands in gauze and proceeded to start slamming punches across my face and into my gut. All I could do was grit my teeth and hope my body held up long enough to survive this onslaught. Burke had a lot of fun beating on me. I thought I might as well try and get in his head. Maybe give myself a chance of escaping. I spit out some blood and smirked at him. "I bet you think you're pretty tough beating up on a tied-up man, don't you? Tied up or not, I would own you. Start talking. Why are you here? I know why he's here." Whitman stepped out of the shadows. "What I'd like to really know is that my suit?" I laughed, flashing a set of bloodied teeth. "It sure is, and I've been bleeding all over it." Whitman got right in my face. "I know you were in my safe. It has fingerprint detection and tracked someone else. Why were you in there?" "Wasn't me." Whitman nodded at Burke. That prompted him to grab a drill and put a hole through my hand. "Oh, you could at least take me out to dinner before tickling me like that." They both stared at me, shocked. "I will give you one chance to speak before my man ends you and buries you next to where the others are." That terrified me beyond belief. They had done this many times before. If I was going to escape, I would have to find a way to do it while they were taking me to the graveyard. "Where's his cell phone?" Burke shook his head. "He didn't have one on him." Whitman started sweating. "He must have. Did you check everywhere?" "Yes." "Fine. You actually made this more convenient for me. You'll happen to go missing, and no one will ever find you. Even if you did take pictures and stash your phone somewhere, it doesn't matter. It'll turn up. Get rid of him." He nodded to Burke and left. Burke lifted me out of the chair, and as he did, I was able to grab my small knife out of my boot without him seeing. Burke and both security guards walked me out to a grassy area that smelled awful. I gagged and almost got sick all over myself. I was clutching onto my knife and they forced me down to my knees. "Start digging." The 2 guards started digging out a shallow grave as I trembled and panicked. I used the knife to giving up. I was convinced they were just trying to not pay me and kept the winning ticket. I hired a private investigator and paid him $5,000. A week later, he came back saying he'd found something strange. The casino's security video wasn't tampered or anything like that. I was indeed on it, counting cards, but there was something else. The man on video had a different name and address to me. He gave me the information, and I drove over, not knowing what to expect. When the door opened, I froze in place. Someone who looked just like me was staring back. I called my mom on video, and after seeing us, she broke down and admitted we were twins, separated at birth because they only had enough money for one of us. My brother grabbed his documentation and we drove to the casino. The owner still tried to deny me, but because I still had my winning ticket, I was able to collect my $300,000. My teacher stormed into class and yelled, "Who here watches anime?" 10 of us raised our hands and she pointed to the door, telling us to go outside. She led us through the hallways in silence to the principal's office, where a police officer was waiting with a notepad. We sat down and the teacher stood at the front with her arms crossed. "Who has seen Dragon Ball Z?" 9 hands went up, and she pointed at the kid with his hand down. Back to class. She walked over to the principal's computer and pulled up an image. 5 characters from Naruto. "Name them, right now." 2 kids just stared at the screen, and she pointed them to the door. Then she held up a quote and handed out blank slips, angrily telling us to write down what anime it was from. I wrote one piece, but 2 kids handed theirs back empty and left. Me and my friend John were among the 5 left. John was shaking, and I didn't know why, but I saw the police officer note it. The teacher slammed a blank paper in front of everyone with instructions on the board. Finally, draw a face in manga style. 3 of the kids' pencils never moved. The teacher looked at me and John. You two draw manga, yes? We nodded and she said, good. Go grab your manga art and bring it back here. The rest of you are free to go. We walked out and I kept wondering what the hell this was about. We came back with our sketchbooks, but this time the teacher's daughter was here too, and she was crying. She was John's crush in our class, but she hadn't raised her hand earlier, so what was she doing here? Just as I was about to ask, the teacher took our drawings. She handed both sketchbooks to her daughter, who started flipping through. She stopped on one of John's pages and pointed at it. That's the one. She wiped her tears and walked out. The officer stood and walked to John, grabbing his hands and cuffing them behind his back. You have the right to remain silent. John had a guilty expression as they led him out the door. I stood there confused and shocked. What just happened? The teacher started crying, and the principal spoke for her. Remember Secret Santa last week? He asked me. Someone gave her daughter a hand-drawn manga, multiple pages. The teacher spoke through tears. That manga was lowly content. My underage daughter was drawn in explicit scenarios with characters from Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, and One Piece. My friend in the back seat yelled, "There's no cops, just go." So I looked both ways and ran the red light. But as soon as I did, red and blue lights lit up right behind us. Both my friends in the back seat started screaming at me to floor it and lose him. I hadn't had a single drink all night, but they'd had enough for all 3 of us. The cop was at my window before I even put it in park. I handed him my license and my friend leaned over my shoulder. "Officer, he's actually a really good driver." The cop raised an eyebrow. "Sir, have you been drinking tonight?" My friend sat up straight. "No, sir. We were at a library." "A library at 2 in the morning?" "It was a 24-hour library for studying." I shook my head. The cop opened the back doors and both my friends spilled out. One of them grabbed the window crank trying to pull himself up. The other one stood up and his whole body started rocking back and forth. The cop looked at me. "You're clearly sober, but I still have to write you a ticket for the light." One of my friends stumbled over. "Officer, what if we pay the ticket right now?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of Monopoly money. "I've got like 500 here." The cop stared at the bills. "Sir, that's not real money." My friend looked down at the bills. "That explains why McDonald's wouldn't take it earlier." The cop bit his lip, trying not to laugh. My other friend yelled, "Wait, I can fix this," and tried to do a cartwheel. He went sideways and landed face first in a bush. The cop handed me the ticket, shaking his head, and my friend tried getting up from the bush and fell right back into it. While walking my daughter to school, I noticed a mime on our street with a sign that said, 7 days until it happens. He had a notebook out and was writing things down, handing out drawings to people who walked by. My daughter thought he was hilarious and ran over to give him a coin. He took it, staying perfectly in character, and waved at her in slow motion while smiling with these wide eyes. Over the next few days, he never left. His sign now said 5 days, and he was tying elaborate knots with a rope, spinning them into shapes while people threw money and clapped. By the time it said 3 days, he was crouched over a padlock, showing the crowd how to break it with a bobby pin, and people were filming and laughing. But with 2 days left, I noticed something odd. He'd only pick up his notebook and write it in when I was with my daughter. If I walked by alone, his notebook stayed on the ground, and the day his sign said 1 day left, he wasn't performing at all. He was just standing completely still, and when my daughter waved at him, he didn't wave back for the first time all week. The next morning, he was gone. I was creeped out, but tried to ignore it, and just went to work as normal. But around 2 p.m., my daughter called me. She whispered, "Daddy, there's someone in our house." I couldn't believe what I was hearing and went pale. I told her to lock herself in the bathroom because I was coming, and called the police, telling them everything. I sprinted out to my car and immediately hit the accelerator, running every red light on the way, praying my daughter was still alive. When I got to my street, I saw my front door wide open. My stomach sank, and I ran inside instantly, expecting the worst. That's when I saw the mime's notebook and the bobby pin he'd been performing with on the drawer. I ran around the house and found the mime standing in the middle of my daughter's room. He was holding a rope, but when he saw me, he didn't even run. He just smiled and said, "She looks just like her." I slammed him into the wall and held him there until I heard the sirens. Police arrested the mime, and while I was hugging my daughter, told me that 3 years ago he'd lost custody. His wife took their 10-year-old and vanished, so he'd been drifting between cities, finding girls who looked like his daughter to try take home. He was homeless, so the money people gave paid for the ropes and tools, and the tricks he performed were him practicing the kidnapping skills. "If you're going to drink, I'd rather you do it in the house," my mom said to me and my friends. She set bottles of vodka and rum on the kitchen counter. "Ground rules," she said. "Nobody leaves until morning, nobody drives, and if anyone gets sick, you come get me immediately." My best friend Seth was already reaching for the vodka. My crush Lola whispered that my mom was the coolest parent she'd ever met. Mom poured everyone's first drink herself, then disappeared upstairs. The first hour felt like a movie. Everyone was dancing and laughing way too loud. Seth kept saying he couldn't feel his face. class, and Lola was spinning around with her eyes closed, bumping into furniture. Some kid was giving a speech about how much he loved everyone, and two girls were in the corner crying about being best friends forever. Then things started getting weird. This girl came up to me and said, "You know, nobody actually thinks you're funny, right? Everyone just laughs because they feel bad for you." I tried to shake it off when Seth grabbed my shoulder. "Bro, I need to tell you something. I've been hooking up with your ex for like 2 months. I told him I needed some air, and he called after me saying he was sorry. I found Lola and told her what Seth said. He's an idiot," she said. That's when I noticed Danny watching us. He'd been acting drunker than anyone all night. He stumbled over and said to Lola, "You look like you need to sit down somewhere quiet. There's a room back here. I'll stay with you." "She's fine," I told him, but he ignored me. He started guiding her away. I followed and watched him pin her against the wall. "Everything is going to be okay," he said. That's when my mom's voice cut through the music. "Everyone stop what you're doing." Everyone went silent. She went straight to the bottles. "This is water," she said. "None of you have had a drop of alcohol." The room froze. I wanted to see who you really were when you thought you had an excuse, and now I know exactly who each of you is. Her eyes locked onto Danny. "You thought she was drunk, and you tried to get her alone in a bedroom." He started to speak, but she cut him off. "You knew exactly."
Want software to help manage and grow your fitness business? Get MindBody, the proven solution empowering gyms, Pilates, and yoga studios.
What you were doing. She made every person at that party call their parents and explain what they did. The emo kid came into class with a giant black duffel bag. The class turned around and watched in horror as he tore it open. Inside was a batch of bright cupcakes. We were all shocked because it was the first time anyone had seen him smile, but as he started to give them out, he passed by my table and whispered, "This is how I wanted to say goodbye before tomorrow." I didn't know what he meant, and I made the mistake of thinking it was just a weird joke. But the next morning, I was sitting in class when I heard my principal shouting on the intercom, "There's a shooter. Everyone go into lockdown." Our teacher ran to the front of the class to lock the door as fast as he could, but it was too late. The glass of our classroom door shattered into pieces as a bullet went through it. We all ducked under the tables to hide, and as I glanced up, I saw the emo kid's face through the window. For a second, we locked eyes, and he hesitated to shoot again, and I was hoping he would spare my life, but he fired again. This time, the bullet missed me by less than 2 inches, but he wasn't giving up. He walked up to me and stood over me, pointing the device right at my head. He looked at the uneaten cupcake on my table, and I thought that would make him even more mad. But that's when he completely broke down and started to cry. My heart was pounding out of my chest because I didn't know what he was going to do next. But he lowered his device and began to whisper so quietly I could barely hear him. He said, "You left the cupcake on the table. You remembered." I just nodded. You see, me and the emo kid used to be childhood friends, and when his mom was in the hospital with cancer, I was the only one in our class who went to the hospital with him. I never knew what to say, so I just brought her cupcakes because she was always the one who baked them for us. She smiled and said, "Save me one for when I come home from the hospital." She never came home, and after that, I promised the emo kid I would never eat a cupcake again, and now he was realizing that I kept my promise. He dropped to the ground and began to weep. The SWAT team wasted no time in barging into the classroom and escorting him out. Turns out he had already injured over 10 students, so he was given life in prison. I made more money than I ever had in my life, and I've never felt more broke. It started when my manager caught me eating an expired yogurt out of the dumpster on my lunch break because I couldn't afford to buy one inside. He fired me on the spot. With rent due and no job, I was up late scrolling Craigslist, looking for anything that could save me. That's when I saw a posting that said, "Professional line stander needed, $25 an hour." I immediately called the number that night, and by the end of the week, I was standing outside a bakery at 4 in the morning, waiting for croissants going to some celebrity's birthday party. $200 for standing still. I paid rent that month for the first time in 3. The next call was $500 to wait in line at a hot dog cart and throw 2 hot dogs in the trash right in front of the girl working the counter, his ex. I watched her face drop as I dumped them in the garbage. I felt sick walking away from that one, but I used the money to move into my own apartment that week. The gigs kept coming and the money kept climbing. New clothes, a car that actually started, bills paid before they were due. Then I got a call from some executive who wanted me at a children's hospital to stand in line with the families and time how long each kid's treatment took. I walked in and saw parents holding their sick kids waiting for their names to be called. A little girl in a wheelchair rolled up to me and tugged on my sleeve. "Are you here for treatment too?" I looked down at her. "My mom says I'm getting better, but I think I'm gonna see my daddy in heaven soon. I miss him." I looked at the clipboard in my hands. I set it on the chair and walked out. My phone rang the entire drive home. I never picked up. The money was good, but I felt like I was losing a piece of myself with every gig. I work at a grocery store now. It pays less than the line work, but they let me take home the expired food instead of firing me for eating it. You got the stuff? Nico looked both ways, opened his locker, and slid out a water bottle. He'd figured out something with Monster, pre-workout powder, and espresso shots that turned a water bottle into a weapon. He called it Rocket Fizz. $3 each. 1 bottle. And you were Einstein for at least 3 hours, but your heart would have to figure it out later. One kid's hands were shaking so bad in first period, he couldn't hold his pencil, but he told the teacher he was just cold. Nobody said a word because everybody was hooked like a fish. Nico was pulling $200 a day out of a locker. Every morning when he'd open his locker before first period, a line would already be there waiting. If you weren't on Rocket Fizz, you weren't playing on an even field, so within 2 weeks, half the school was buying. Then Brody drank 3 before gym class, and by the 3rd lap of the mile, his face was soaked and he was breathing through his mouth. The gym teacher blew his whistle. "Brody, get off the track. You don't look right." Brody waved him off and went down mid-stride face first. They wheeled him out on a stretcher, and his heart rate was so high the paramedics thought the monitor was broken. Turns out Brody's heart didn't figure it out. Next morning, the principal called an emergency assembly and walked to the microphone holding one of Nico's bottles above his head. "We had this tested by a lab, and what came back should scare every single one of you. 800 milligrams of caffeine in 1 bottle. The FDA says 400 is the limit for a full-grown adult. This is double that." Every head in the gym turned toward Nico. "These drinks are banned. Anyone caught selling them will be suspended." Someone in the back started a slow clap, and within 5 seconds the entire gym was applauding. The principal leaned into the mic. "This is not funny." That afternoon they found 50 bottles in Nico's locker, organized by flavor. They suspended him for a week, and when he came back, kids swarmed him in the hallway. "Bro, please, finals are in 2 weeks. Name your price." Nico shook his head. "I'm retired. I still had 2 left from before the ban. Drank 1 the morning of my history final, and when the teacher asked why my hands were shaking, I told her I was just cold. My heart would figure it out." My girlfriend dumped me over a Spotify playlist. We were driving to New York when my girlfriend asked me to add some songs to our road trip playlist. I added Sweet Home Alabama and Country Roads, thinking we could shout the lyrics to them. But the second the first song played, she made a U-turn right in the middle of the road. "Baby, what the hell are you doing?" I asked. But then she burst into tears.
"I've been building out my capsule wardrobe and recently bought this pair of black slacks. I needed some inspiration for how to wear them, so I asked ChatGPT to help. It was so useful to brainstorm how to wear them for different occasions like work, going out, running errands, and date night.
Come on. How you doing, man?
And said, "I'm breaking up with you." I sat there completely lost, but she just sped back to my apartment and dropped me at the curb. I had no idea what just happened, so I called her best friend to figure it out, but her voice came through cold. "I know what you did. You're disgusting. Never call this number again." I tried calling her back, but she already blocked me. Then the next morning, I saw Lorelai had posted a picture kissing her ex with the caption, "I know where home is." I sat there confused, wondering how she could run back to the ex who cheated on her 4 times the day after dumping me. But before I could even process that, someone knocked on my door. It was Lorelai's mom. "I wanted to thank you for showing your true colors before things got more serious," she smiled. "By adding music, she asked me to add." I asked. She laughed. "Of course you don't understand. I knew you weren't right for my daughter." I felt like I was losing my mind, so I drove straight to Lorelai's house. She opened the door and looked annoyed. "Lorelai, what the hell is going on?" She crossed her arms. "It was a test, and you failed." "A test for what?" "Every woman in my family tests her boyfriend with a small favor to see if he only thinks of himself. You added country music when all I listen to is K-pop, so you failed." I rubbed my face. "Lorelai, this is insane." Her eyes got cold. "My ex added Blackpink, which is my favorite band, so he passed." At that point, I realized I'd dodged a bullet. Then a year later, I saw her engagement announcement to her ex, and because I still had her Spotify, I added a country song for their wedding playlist. I was abandoned on a random doorstep and taken in by an old Chinese lady named Shin. She raised me and taught me Cantonese and was the only mom I ever knew. But at 21, 1, we got into a car accident. Shin was fine, but I had to relearn to walk and talk, and my Cantonese never came back. I couldn't communicate with Shin and found myself at a coffee shop planning to take my life. That's when a woman named Gwen walked in, holding my favorite book. She sat down, and we fell in love because everything she said was perfect. 5 years into our marriage, our dream house went up for sale. Gwen talked about it constantly, but we couldn't afford it. Shin had Alzheimer's, and I was paying for her hospice. But this was my wife, so I started working a second job without telling Gwen, saving for a down payment to surprise her. But that's when I noticed Gwen was hiding her phone. She claimed to be working overtime, but no extra money came in, and would go white and change the subject when I asked. So one night, I decided to follow her and find out myself. But while I was driving, I got a call that changed everything. Shin had become lucid for the first time in years. She had something to tell me and couldn't die without it. I hired a Cantonese translator and rushed to the hospital. Shin grabbed my hand the moment I sat down and started speaking to the translator, pointing at my wedding ring. The translator spoke. She's talking about how you met your wife. She's saying she paid Gwen to meet you. My jaw dropped. After your accident, you wanted to end your life. So Shin paid Gwen to befriend you so you'd want to live again. You were never supposed to fall in love with her. I stared at Shin. She reached under her pillow and pulled out a receipt. Elite Companionship Services. Suddenly, Gwen's face-down phone and longer hours came back to me. I thought about the second job, the lack of sleep, and the meals I'd been skipping, all to buy a house for a woman who was paid to be with me and probably cheating. Jin died 15 minutes later. I went home. When Gwen came in, I showed her Shin's death certificate. Gwen moved to hug me, but I didn't hug back and pulled out the companionship receipt. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Gwen stayed silent. And the longer hours? I continued. The phone face down? What was that? Cheating? Did you ever actually love me? Gwen's eyes filled with tears. I can't hide this anymore. She opened a drawer and pulled out a binder, and I mentally prepared to see divorce papers, but instead, bank statements fell out. A separate savings account I'd never seen with 20,000. Shin paid me to love, she said. But on day 1, that job became real. I need you to believe that. She pulled out the listing of our dream house as well as a house key. I realized she'd been working to surprise me, just like I was working to surprise her. I was playing Minecraft in history class when the girl behind me whispered, "Is that the Battle of Versailles you're building?" I looked down at my half-finished castle. It's just a random castle. You should make it historically accurate. The real Versailles had symmetrical wings and a central courtyard. I'm not one to turn down a challenge, especially when it means I get to keep gaming in class. I pulled up a reference image and got to work. By the end of that class, I had a decent replica of Versailles, and Katie had spent the whole period feeding me historical details instead of falling asleep. The next day, 3 more kids were huddled around my screen giving input. By Friday, half the class was either watching or contributing to what had become a full recreation of revolutionary France. Katie came in the following Monday and said, "Could you build the major battle sites? It would really help me study for the test." That weekend, I set up a school Minecraft server and mapped out an entire historical world. Students could log in and walk through events in order. I added signs with dates and details at every location. For 6 weeks, test scores were up. Attendance was perfect, and I was actually remembering the history because I had to build it. Then during a parent-teacher conference, some freshman walked his mom through the server to show her how he was studying. She happened to be on the school board. The next morning, the principal's voice came over the PA. "Effective immediately, all access to gaming websites, including Minecraft." And yes, he said it as 2 separate words. "Is permanently blocked on school networks." Test scores dropped back down within a month. Attendance went back to normal. The school's new solution for engaging students was a mandatory PowerPoint presentation every Friday. Nobody learned a thing, but at least we weren't gaming. When the light turned green, I went to press the gas, but my foot wouldn't move. "Daddy, go," Mia said from the back seat, kicking my seat the way she did every morning when we stopped at the light 2 blocks from her school. Something was wrong with me, and I couldn't tell her. I tried again, and my foot still wouldn't move. The horn behind me started up, short beeps, then long ones, then one long blast that didn't stop. I squeezed the wheel as hard as I could, and my hand wouldn't even tighten. "Daddy," Mia said, but my head wouldn't turn. I tried to say her name, and my mouth wouldn't work. In the mirror, I watched a woman throw her own door open and march toward my window. My body started shaking, and I couldn't make it stop. The edges of my vision went black, and the mirror started to disappear. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, what's wrong?" Mia's voice climbed each time. The woman got...
How many guests can we invite? 10?
200. 300?
Enough. We can't.
My window screaming, "What is wrong with you?" Her eyes locked onto my face and the screaming stopped. "Oh my God, oh my God, can you hear me?" She pulled out her phone without taking her eyes off me. "I've got an active stroke, male, 40-something. Send everything." She got me out of the car and laid me on my side on the road. She kept her hand on my shoulder until the sirens came. I'd had a stroke at a green light and she was a nurse on her way to work. She rode in the ambulance holding Mia's hand the whole way. I survived with some weakness on my right side. The doctors said another few minutes and I wouldn't have made it home. Mia still sends her a card every Christmas that just says, "Thank you for being mad at us. If a single one of you fails my test, I'll make sure the whole class gets held back." All of us were shaking because his tests were impossible. He handed them out, and when we read the first question, we all looked at each other. Some students were crying. Nobody's pencil were moving. But then, our teacher's phone rang. He walked out of the room to answer it, closing the door behind him. We knew this was our chance. "What did you get for number 1? But nobody knew a thing. But just as Mitch flipped to the back, his eyes lit up. He held up his page. "Guys, I think this is the answer key." Then, the handle turned. Everyone went silent. The teacher walked in, glared at all of us, and said, "Sorry guys, my wife's calling. I'll be back in 2 minutes. No cheating." He shut the door. Everyone looked at Mitch. Instantly, everyone ran over to his desk, memorizing answers, fighting for a peek. We were all trying to read them, shoving each other aside. 30 seconds left. "Give me that!" We all started to learn what the Pythagorean theorem meant. Every equation, every definition. I heard him walking up to the door. "He's coming." We ran back to our desks, but I saw it. The answer key was still out. The handle turned, but I said, "The key, hide it quick." Mitch's eyes went wide, but he walked in. Did someone say something? Everyone was silent. He glared at us, then at Mitch. I looked closer, and his cheeks were puffed. He put the test in his mouth. Our teacher walked by and sat down. We all started writing, but when I handed in my test, he said, "Wait." My heart was racing. "Do you have something to tell me?" Oh no, I was busted. He leaned in, squinting. I sighed. "I'm sorry. Someone left an answer key on Mitch's desk. We all copied off of it." "You guys memorized every answer and copied them all down? Do you realize what that is?" I was ready to repeat the year. "Yes, sir. It's cheating." But he put his hand on my shoulder. "Wait, what?" He smiled. "That's called studying. Who do you think left it there?" The first punch I ever threw put someone in the hospital. I'd never been in a fight. Not in middle school when kids picked on me. Not in high school when someone keyed my car. Not in college when a drunk guy shoved me outside a bar. I always walked away. People called me calm, patient, level-headed. But my little sister is the one thing in my life I'm not calm about. She's 16. Last Saturday, she went to a party and I told her to call me if anything happened. She called at midnight with her voice shaking. Some guy wouldn't take no for an answer. Followed her outside when she tried to leave. Cornered her by the cars. She got away, but he grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. I broke every speed limit getting there, and my hands were shaking the whole way. Not from fear, something else. Something I'd never felt before. I parked crooked on the lawn and didn't care. She was sitting on the curb when I pulled up, arms wrapped around herself. The second I saw the bruises on her arm, 23 years of walking away went quiet. "Which one?" She looked up at me with mascara running down her face. "It doesn't matter. Just take me home." "Which one?" She pointed at the house. "Backyard. Backwards cap." I told her to wait in the car. She begged me not to go inside. I went anyway. I walked through the house like I owned it and found him out back surrounded by friends, laughing, living his best life, while my sister sat on a curb shaking. I grabbed his shoulder and spun him around. He looked annoyed until he saw my face. "We got a problem? You grabbed my little sister." He rolled his eyes. "Bro, what are you talking about?" "The girl by the cars. The one who said no. The one you bruised." His friends went quiet. Everyone was watching. Then he made a mistake. He laughed. She was overreacting. I barely touched her. My fist connected with his jaw before I knew what I was doing. He hit the ground, and I didn't stop. I don't remember deciding to keep swinging. I just remember the sound. His friends pulled me off eventually. By the time I stood up, my knuckles were split open, and he wasn't moving. I walked back through the house, and the same people who stared at me on the way in were pressed against the walls now. Got to my car. My sister was in the passenger seat crying. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. Just started driving. We were halfway home before I saw the lights in my mirror, blue and red. I pulled over and told her everything was going to be okay. I wasn't sure if I was lying. The cop walked up to my window and saw my knuckles, the blood. "Step out of the vehicle, please." I did. Hands where he could see them. He looked at my sister through the window and saw her arm, the bruises, then back at me. "Someone want to tell me what happened tonight." My sister got out before I could stop her and told him everything. The party, the guy who wouldn't leave her alone, the grabbing, me showing up. The cop listened without writing anything down. When she finished, he looked at me for a long time. "The kid back there wants to press charges." I figured. He looked at my sister's arm again, then at me. "Off the record, I have a daughter her age." He closed his notepad and tapped it against his palm twice. "Drive safe." I never got charged. He never apologized. People still call me the calm one. They're right. I am calm. They just don't test it anymore. The day before our final exam, our teacher told us that to get an A, all we had to do was nothing. "The instructions are simple," he continued. "Tomorrow you'll walk in, sit down, and stay in your seat doing nothing for 1 hour. Do that, and you'll pass this ethics class. Stand up for any reason, and you fail." We looked around. There had to be a catch. The next day, we walked in and sat down. There weren't any pens or papers. For the first 10 minutes, we sat in silence, wondering if this was really happening. Mr. Rogers just read his book and didn't even look at us. Then 15 minutes and the door opened. Sophie walked in late. She'd joined us earlier this year and rarely ever came into class. Mr. Rogers slammed his book shut. "You're late." He walked toward her. Sophie froze. "My mom was just—" "I don't care about your mom," Mr. Rogers snapped, interrupting her. "Now sit down. Maybe if you sit for long enough, you'll actually amount to something." Sophie walked to her desk with her head low. Nobody said a word. 5 minutes later, Mr. Rogers walked to Sophie's desk with her manuscript. He leaned over her. "I just read your file again. D's and F's across the board. What's your excuse? You cut yourself last year?" The energy in the air shifted at once. Sophie teared up, but Mr. Rogers kept going. He held Sophie's transcript up for the class to see. "This is what a failure and a cheater looks like. Missing my class, then conveniently showing up for the exam." A kid yelled out this was unnecessary. Mr. Rogers responded that if he wants to help her, he can. "But you'll lose your grade." The kid stayed seated. Mr. Rogers leaned back over and continued verbally assaulting Sophie, calling her stupid, insulting her home life, and telling Sophie her mom wishes she was never born. By now, Sophie was sobbing, and when Mr. Rogers slammed his hands on her desk and told her to stop crying, she just slid off her chair onto the floor. He stood over her and grabbed her arm, yanking her up. Then he let go, and she dropped back to the floor. "Somebody should do something," a girl whispered through tears. "Not me. I need this grade," the kid next to her said without looking up. Sophie was hyperventilating on the floor, and Mr. Rogers walked back to his desk to read like she wasn't even there. The only sound in the entire room were Sophie's sobs. That's when a girl named Mary stood up. She walked to Sophie, knelt down, and wrapped her arms around her. She helped her to her feet and wiped Sophie's tears. Mr. Rogers looked up. "You just failed my exam." Mary looked right at him. "Then fail me. You're all pathetic anyway." She walked Sophie out, and the door slammed behind them. We sat in silence for the remaining 30 minutes. When the bell rang, nobody moved. Mr. Rogers walked to the front. Sophie wasn't real. He looked at us. She was a theater student I'd paid to be here. He told us everything he said to her today was scripted and she was fine. And then he dropped the bomb. Mary was the only one who passed, because this was ethics class, and sometimes you need to break a rule to help someone in need. During our geometry test, the smartest kid in class finished in 10 minutes, slammed his pencil down, and yelled, "Done." Then he walked over to the girl next to him who was still on problem 3, grabbed her paper, scribbled a wrong answer on it, and walked away laughing while she started crying. Our teacher watched the whole thing and didn't say a word. But the next week, she told us she'd set up something special. A girl from the high school math team was coming to find kids good enough for their summer program. The kid everyone called Einstein shot both hands in the air. He'd been telling everyone all year he was too smart for our class. "Pick me. I've been ready for this my whole life." Our teacher smiled. "I was hoping you'd volunteer." The girl from the math team walked in and handed him a marker. "Take your time." A problem popped up on the board. He didn't even wait. He started writing and talking at the same time like he was teaching a class. "See, this is basic stuff if you actually know what you're doing. Most people mess this up, but watch." He filled half the board with numbers and symbols that looked real to a bunch of 7th graders. He stepped back and turned to the class, grinning. "Any questions?" She crossed her arms and nodded. Really impressive confidence. That problem is something we give seniors. He was already looking around the room, soaking it in when she finished. "And nothing you wrote is even close. It's complete nonsense." His smile dropped. The room went dead silent. "I don't even know what you were trying to do up there." He stood at the board with the marker still in his hand and didn't move. The girl he'd grabbed the paper from raised her hand. Our teacher called on her. She walked to the board, erased everything he wrote, and solved it in 2 minutes. She set the marker down on his desk and looked at him. More like Doofenstein. The whole class started laughing. His eyes started watering. He grabbed his bag and waddled toward the door, crying. His foot caught the leg of a desk, and he went face first into the floor. The laughs got even louder. Our family was extremely poor, but then one day my 12-year-old brother started coming home with extra cash, new sneakers, and gold watches. I instantly asked, "Where did you get these?" And he just shrugged. "Kids at school give me stuff for winning games." But he was in 6th grade. Who gives out gold watches for winning rock, paper, scissors? I was confused and worried. So after work the next day, I hunting and yelling, "Get him! Swing!" And when I pushed through, my stomach dropped. This was a fight ring, and my 12-year-old brother was in the middle getting swung at by a 12th grader. My heart broke, and I felt like a failure. My little brother thought he had to put himself through beatings to put food on our table. I started pushing through the crowd to pull him out, but then I froze. My brother slipped the punch and cracked the bigger kid with the right hand that dropped him. The crowd went crazy, but I just froze. My brother had never trained a day. The kid got back up. "Come here, you brat!" But my brother put him down again. Just like that, the kid was out, and my brother raised his hands in the air. The organizer took off his sneakers and handed them to my brother. Everyone cheered, and I did too. But now he's a professional boxer who got our family out of poverty. He still thinks granddad left that money. The same thing my dad kicked me out for. Got hurt. Being a nurse was the only thing I ever wanted. So on my 18th birthday when my dad put enlistment papers on the kitchen table. I told him no. He slammed his fists on the table. No son of mine is going to wipe old people's tushies for a living. He slid a duffel bag across the table. Sign the papers or use that to pack your stuff. I was out by dawn. I worked nights and put myself through nursing school. 5 years later, I walked into the county hospital for my first shift, and they handed me a chart nobody else wanted. A Vietnam vet named Dave. PTSD so bad he'd fought 3 nurses that week alone. I walked into his room and froze. Same crew cut as my dad. Same stubborn look on his face. He pointed at the door. Get out. I pulled up a chair and sat down. He didn't talk to me for 3 days.
We had no idea what we were capable of. It was time for us to change things.
Never quite as it seems.
Relax and let Kroger Pickup handle your groceries. We start with the freshest items.
I came back every shift and sat in that same chair. On the 4th night, he had a bad episode. The other nurses called for security. I walked back into his room and if anything to see him walk through that door. Dad was in the hospital. I hadn't seen him in 5 years. I thought about Dave waiting for a son who never came. I hung up and drove straight there. I walked into his room. He looked at me, and a tear rolled down his face, but he didn't say a word. I pulled up a chair and grabbed his hand. I thought I had a superpower. I was dead wrong. When I was little, I genuinely believed I was a superhero. Sleep man. I could fall asleep at a moment's notice and stay asleep through anything. I'd close my eyes sitting up and be out cold in seconds. My friends thought I was some kind of magician. My family made fun of me for falling asleep in school and during movies. The only weird part was that no matter how much I slept, I was always Please, there's no time. Just let me get in. I didn't know what to do. She was so scared. I couldn't leave her. Okay, just tell me what's going on when you get in. I opened the back door for her, and she immediately hugged me, saying, "Oh my God, thank you." My mom instantly saw her crying. "Oh my God, what happened?" The girl instantly broke down. "I'm sorry. I just heard my mom on the phone this morning. She was setting up a buyer for me." We were both shocked. "A buyer? Like your mom was gonna sell you?" The girl nodded, still crying. "Yes, to the creepy men who always watch me." My mom looked horrified. She immediately reached for her phone, dialing 911, but the girl shouted, "No, please just drive. They'll see me here." My mom looked at me and without hesitation put the car in drive. We rolled out of the parking lot, but as I looked around, there was nobody else there. "Shouldn't your mom be here by now?" But she stayed quiet. "Don't worry, honey, I'm taking you straight to the police station." But I noticed she wasn't crying anymore. I heard her whisper, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna need police for sure. You'll see." This was getting really weird now, but then I saw the reflection of the flashing lights. There was a police SUV coming up behind us, then another, and then a third. We were boxed in. "Police, get your ass out of the car now." "Mom, what's happening?" But when I looked at the girl, she wasn't scared. The cops all approached the car with their guns drawn. My mom yelled, "Officers, what did we do? You're under arrest for kidnapping this young girl." They grabbed my mom, but she said, "No, you don't understand. She's in danger." Her mom was trying to sell her, but then an older woman stepped out from behind the cops. The girl ran up and hugged her, yelling, "Mom, thank God." I was really confused now. Her mom pointed at us. "That's the woman who kidnapped my daughter from school. They were gonna take her, but I yelled, 'No, please, that girl lied to us. She doesn't even go to our school.' But her mom already had an excuse. 'Yes, she does. Look at her backpack. It has the school logo on it.' But when I said that, I noticed the cops looking at her weird. He looked suspicious. He said, 'Wait, Historia Middle School? You go there?' The girl nodded quickly, but she looked nervous. 'So you have classes with Marcus Chen?' She instantly said, 'Yes, we're really good friends.' Then, the cop grabbed the woman and took out his handcuffs. 'Wait, what did we do?' 'Ma'am, there is no Marcus Chen. Everyone knows that name is fake. They both went to jail, and they never pulled that scam again.' After deciding I was going to take my life, I decided to order pizza as my last meal on Earth. But when the pizza arrived, the receipt had a really weird note attached to it. 'Please enjoy your last meal on us. We're so sorry.' I immediately freaked out because I'd never told anyone about my plan, but when I looked closer at the pizza and the receipt, I realized I'd simply gotten someone else's order. I was relieved, but the words, 'last meal,' still stuck out to me, so I put the address on the receipt into my GPS and drove over with the pizza. If this was actually someone's final meal, they needed to have it. I knocked on the door, and a woman in tears answered. I said, "Your pizza was delivered to my house. I wanted to bring it back." Her eyes lit up, and she immediately lunged to hug me. I was taken aback, but then I saw an old man in a bed behind her, hooked up to oxygen tubes and barely breathing. The woman explained through tears he was dying, and that used to take her to this pizza place every Friday, her whole childhood. This meal was his last request on earth, as he wanted to connect with his daughter one final time. I was heartbroken, and gave her the pizza, and wished her well. I turned to leave, proud I'd done at least one good thing before taking my life. But then the old man called out to me. I turned around, and he was using all of his strength to motion his arm for me to come in. "There's enough pizza for one more. I'm too weak to eat much anyway," he joked. I felt myself tear up, and the woman held the door for me as I walked inside. We shared the pizza, laughing and crying at his final stories. And when I asked him, "Why did you invite me in?" he replied, "I've lived long enough to know when someone needs a friend." I held the woman's hand as she said goodbye to her dad forever, and in his death, I found a reason to stay alive. Now every Friday, me and the woman have pizza together to honor him. My mom cupped my face and smiled. "You look just like your dad," and I grinned back. "Good, I want to be just like him." But a month later, he packed a suitcase and left us for another woman. The betrayal killed us both. Mom stopped eating, and I got migraines that made my nose bleed. After I coughed up blood, I dragged myself to the kitchen to tell Mom I needed a hospital, but I hid behind the doorway when I saw her crushing pills I'd never seen before into my food. She turned around with a creepy smile and yelled, "Honey, dinner's ready." I walked in a minute later saying, "Mom, I don't feel good, so I'm gonna eat in my room." "Make sure you eat it all. It'll make you feel better," she said. I dumped it into a bag and stuffed it in my backpack. I started buying food on the way home from school after that, and dumped the pill-infested food into a bag every night. I realized she was the one making me sick when I started feeling better. I didn't know why she did this, so when she left for work one day, I went through every drawer in her room looking for answers until I found a stack of letters, all written to my dad. She wrote that she wanted to hurt him but couldn't, so she was hurting me instead because I had his face. I cried until my eyes were bloodshot. Then I put the letters back and went straight to the kitchen. When she got home, I walked her to the kitchen and said, "Come on, Mom, I made you food. You gotta start eating again. You're amazing," she said. She finished the whole plate. Within a week, she was throwing up after my dinners. Then the migraines started, and her nose bled through tissues. Her fevers got so bad she couldn't get out of bed, and the whole time I brought her water, adjusted her pillows, and made her plate every single night. When she started coughing up blood, I drove her to teen camp, and 2 days later, my parents forced me to go. Dad handed over the folder of printed screenshots and explained everything. I tried to defend myself, but my voice kept cracking. "I'm being framed. I never searched for any of that." My younger brother Chris started crying quietly, and my mom comforted him. The counselor asked him, "Are you afraid of your brother?" He nodded without looking at me. Then she asked to see the laptop. She clicked for several minutes while everyone sat in silence. Then she stopped. "There's a program running here that shouldn't be. It lets someone control this computer from a different device." She looked up at my parents. "Someone in your house has been controlling this computer remotely." Chris went completely still. The counselor looked directly at him. "Chris, do you know anything about this?" His face crumbled. "You deleted my Minecraft world and didn't even care. You just said sorry and walked away like it was nothing, but I spent hours building it." Dad stood up slowly and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "It sounds like your little brother is the one who needs this camp instead." Our teacher slammed a stack of papers on his desk and looked at every one of us. 30 years I've been doing this. Not once has every student failed my test until now. He was red in the face, pacing like a caged animal. He handed my test back. 4 out of 25. I looked at the first answer. It was the same one I'd written on my flashcards the night before. This was our midterm, half our final grade. He looked at the class and said, "Every single one of you is going to summer school. I'm calling all of your parents tonight." Kids started panicking. He picked up the phone like he was about to start dialing. I raised my hand. "Sir, are you sure you graded this properly?" He slammed the phone down. "Are you calling me incompetent?" He snatched the answer key off his desk and held it up to the class. "Does this look wrong to you?" Someone from the back yelled, "Yeah, it says Spanish quiz." He looked at the paper in his hand, then at us, then back at it. The color drained from his face. He put the key down and slid it under a folder. "I'm still disappointed in all of you. The whole class lost it. He pointed at me. Sit down. That's detention for getting up without permission. I was still in my seat. He sat down without a word and pulled out the real answer key. For 20 minutes, the only sound was his pen scratching across paper while the entire class watched in silence. When he finished, we all passed. I got a 94. He never apologized. He just stared at his desk until the bell rang. On the way out, I leaned over and whispered, 30 years, sir. You might want to get your eyes checked. My wife texted me a photo of my son's empty plate with the caption, he ate all his broccoli without complaining, and I felt my whole body go cold. My son has never eaten a vegetable. We have tried bribery, begging, and blending them into smoothies. He picked microscopic pieces of spinach out of a chocolate smoothie, gagged like he'd been poisoned, and didn't trust me for a week. I called her immediately, and she cheerfully told me our son was taking a bath, but my son has not taken a bath since he was 4 years old. I knew something was going wrong. I ran out of the office and was doing 60 before I even made it out of the parking garage. I called 911, and the dispatcher didn't believe me until I told her about the hunger strike he staged because my wife put a single pea on his plate as a joke. We're sending units, she said. I was still 5 minutes out. I called my retired cop neighbor and asked him to watch the house. He told me there was a truck in the driveway that he didn't recognize, and every blind in the house was closed. My wife never closes those blinds because our son likes to watch for my car. I pulled onto our street and slammed on the brakes when I saw 3 police cars and an ambulance. The officers had their weapons pointed at my front door. I jumped out of my car and one tackled me into the ground before I made it 10 feet. There's a man inside with a knife. We are handling this. Then I heard my son crying and the sound of glass shattering. The officers rushed the door, screaming. A crash. Then an officer came out carrying my son. 2 more were dragging a man in handcuffs with blood streaming down his face. My wife stumbled out behind them. The man had broken in through the back door. He held a knife to her throat and made her text me something normal so I wouldn't come home early from work. How did you think of the broccoli? She looked at me with mascara running down her face. 4 years of fighting him every night. I knew you would know. I looked down at my son clinging to my leg. Daddy, I didn't really eat the broccoli. I promise. I was banging on the vending machine to try and get my dollar back when suddenly the late bell rang, so I left it and headed to class. But by the time I sat down, our teacher was already taking attendance. So I pulled out my phone under my desk and texted my little brother Timmy, go get my dollar from the vending machine by the bathrooms. Fine. She started the lesson and I put my phone away. A few minutes later, we heard a loud bang from down the hall. The speakers crackled and our principal's voice came through shaking. Return to your classrooms and lock your doors. This is not a drill. Our teacher immediately jumped up and pulled the blinds shut. She then locked the door and shoved her desk against it. Backpacks down. Get to that wall. Let's go. Let's go. A girl in the front row started crying. Oh my God, there's a shooter. I grabbed my phone and texted Timmy. Get to your class now. Delivered. Sirens started layering outside one after another until you could feel them vibrating through the floor. A kid whispered, they're right outside, and someone shushed him so hard, the room went dead silent. Our teacher sat at her laptop refreshing the page over and over. Nobody talked. I looked at my phone. Still delivered. 10 minutes passed. Then the speakers crackled again. All clear. All students please exit the building in an orderly fashion. Kids started grabbing their bags. Our teacher touched my shoulder. Jack, stay here. A police officer was waiting at the door. He walked me down an empty hallway and into a small room at the end. My mom was sitting inside. She saw me and broke down. Baby, it's Timmy. Where is he? Is he okay? She couldn't answer. My dad knelt in front of me. He didn't make it, buddy. Was he shot? Did the shooter get to him? My dad shook his head. There was no shooter, Jack. Timmy was trying to get something out of a vending machine. He was rocking it back and forth and it fell on top of him. I stared at him. That was the bang? Nobody answered. I broke free and ran. Kids were pouring out of the building laughing and hugging each other, and I pushed through all of them. I ran down the hallway. Around the corner, there was the vending machine on its side. Next to it was one shoe and Timmy's phone. My brother kept observing Cole, and suddenly, he burst into tears. I believe Cole has dissociative identity disorder. There is a different person living in his mind, and when that person takes over, Cole can't remember anything because he isn't present at all. Cole started treatment that same week. Now I can tell within 30 seconds each morning which personality is taking over Cole, and I treat each of them differently. We were driving home The whale was tracking my little brother's hand through the glass when the kid behind us chucked popcorn at the tank and yelled, "Eat up, Shamu." Tommy didn't turn around. "That's not Shamu. Her name is Luna, and orcas remember faces." The kid laughed and held up another handful of popcorn and launched it into the tank. "She gonna remember me, whale boy?" Tommy's hands trembled on the railing. He'd loved orcas forever. Mom worked 2 months of doubles for these seats. His smile disappeared, and I saw him clenching his fists. Some rich kid was going to ruin it before the show even started. His 2 friends started cracking up. "She probably likes the popcorn, bro." The kid stood up, leaned over the rail, and dumped his soda and popcorn box into the pool. "Hope she likes Sprite too." Tommy spun around, his whole body shaking. "Stop, you're going to kill her." The kid laughed and shoved Tommy in the chest. Tommy hit the railing and slid to the floor. The 3 of them stood over him, howling. That was it. I jumped up to show them what happens when you mess with my brother. But that's when Luna let out a low call and disappeared